Marvel rivals Seattle studio layout. Why is everybody fucking talking about this Marvel rival studio thing? I don't know anything about this. When have I ever been a guy who covers like the latest and greatest in like gaming news? They cooked you, not gonna lie. I think this fit is very cozy. It's husbando, cozy husbando vibes. Okay, gaming plus labor. Yeah, everybody thinks I'm like the leftist Asmongold now or something. Like I cover gaming, but from a leftist perspective or something. They made 200 million in 1 quarter and fire people. I don't even know what happened. But I have a lot of other stuff to cover before we get to that. Like I'll get to that. I'll get to that as well. But before that, we got Elon's coming after Social Security. I feel like that's a big deal, you know? Also, Trump team meets with Russia in Saudi Arabia. That's a big deal. You know what I mean? Don't you think? I feel like that's kind of, that should take precedent over everything else that's going on, I think. We'll talk about, obviously, like planes keep falling due to no DEI. You know, that's another one. That's a good story. I like that. We should talk about that a little bit more. Why you have to be mad? I'm not mad. I'm not mad at all. I'm in a great mood. Yeah, the Marvel stuff is literally something you'd cover on a Sunday fun day. Yeah, I think that is like, it's kind of like that. Yeah. What do you think about Saudi Arabia trying to pull a Qatar in terms of being a mediator? They ain't got no motion. Okay. I will admit I am partial to Qatar, and it's not because, you know, the royal family is Hasanabi has or whatever, which I've heard might be the case. I don't know if it's real or if it's a meme or not, but also because of Al Jazeera, obviously. Saudi Arabia will never have the Al Jazeera motion because they just don't have, like, Al Jazeera is the premier soft power capability that Qatar has. It is a genuine benefit. It's taken them years and years to develop like a really solid reporting outlet, like that conducts investigative journalism with regular frequency. That in and of itself, I think is way more, that in and of itself I think is like way more important than just having a lot of oil money and buying a bunch of stuff. You know what I mean? Qatar also has like a lot of labor issues in terms of, obviously, you know, slave labor and things like that, but it has it's almost like seen as a Switzerland style in the region. Like Qatar practices slavery, you know that, right? Many of my Indian brothers and other people died during the construction of the Qatar football stadium and FIFA World Cup. They took away those labor repositories. No, I'm very familiar with it. I routinely talked about it, and I routinely shit on Qatar for doing that. So no, every one of these countries has a litany of issues. The point I was making rather is that I'm partial to them, or at least I feel more fondness to them because they do the least amount of awful nonsense in comparison to other Gulf nations. And also simultaneously, they have a really, really solid Western reporting and regional reporting in general. Just don't ask them about like shit that's happening in the country. It's still very much a state broadcaster, right? It's still a state broadcaster. But it's kind of funny because like I also like Channel 4, for example, but nobody's like, well, India has this, or India, what am I saying? England does this or that. Like it's the same principle, right? I like Channel 4. Channel 4 is better than most other state broadcasters. Okay. I guess Channel 4 it gets state funding, but it's not a state broadcaster, right? It's private. You like Russia Today too? No, I don't. That's ridiculous. The last time you could have said I like Russia Today would have probably been like a decade ago. Back when they weren't, back when they were still obviously doing propaganda, but at least their like Western news coverage was like, no, it's public broadcasting. Yeah, Russia Today is dog shit, dude. Russia Today hasn't been good for years. I still haven't blasted off. It's 43 minutes and I'm talking about Russia Today. What is wrong with me? All right. Elon's coming after Social Security with lies. Trump team meets with Russia in Saudi Arabia. I almost said South Africa. What the hell? Planes keep falling due to no DEI. Not woke game. Kingdom come later? Question mark. Get in now. You're Bidening? I am Bidening. It's over. It's Jover for me. It's Jover for me. I'm done. Everything is done. You know the Kingdom Come guys at Gamergator, right? Well, if he makes me come, then I don't care. Do you think I care? What do you mean? I genuinely don't care. I don't think I've stressed this enough as of late, even though I ironically talk about all the time. I think people personally think like I care about the politics of the people that make stuff, that make art. I think it can be a factor in, and it certainly is usually a factor in the way that people make art. But if you personally think that that is going to stop me from playing a video game or whatever, you're wrong. And the same goes for any other artistic medium as well. That was your opinion of Hogwarts. What was your opinion of Hogwarts Legacy? Look, no disrespect, I thought it was very mid. I thought the IP itself and the nostalgia factor was what carried it into the massive amounts of popularity it garnered. I played it a little bit. It just didn't do it for me. And part of the reason why it didn't do it for me is because it was just like a regular ass open world clone that has been made a million times over, right? But I completely understand why the nostalgia factor plays a massive role for a lot of millennials with a lot of disposable income who are very excited to play inside of the world of Harry Potter. Brother, Casey D2 needs no Gamergate speech. It's woke as fuck. Yeah, that's why it's funny, because Kingdom Come Deliverance, from what I understand, was also panned critically by the anti-woke mob, because despite the fact that the guy who made it is like constantly hyping up Gamergate style morons, he actually had a gay character and people were very upset. It was a lot of people's only video game they've ever played. Yo, for sure. My point is, as long as something is good, I don't care. I've seen a lot of non-corpo devs all of a sudden said they are non-woke after seeing Wukong's success. They also make tutorial really long so gamers cannot refund it past 2 hours. How likely is the government to cut Social Security for mental health disabilities? Nothing is off the table, okay? Do not worry. MHUD sent me this. It's Monday. Doge is the laziest, most overpaid bunch of incompetent, unelected bureaucrats we've ever seen. I'm starting to think Doge employees don't work 120-hour weeks. They receive $7 million to have ChatGPT build them a website, embedding a single Twitter feed and nothing else. Is this guy just like a Doge hater? But he hates on Doge from the perspective of efficiency, because I love that. I think it's very funny to shit on Doge by being like, I wish they were doing what they claimed they were doing. I want to destroy the federal government. These guys are not doing it well enough. Yes, and he knows his shit. So I, of course, also did a little bit of reading into the Doge stuff. Not necessarily the broader scopes, but the broader scope of the Doge stuff or the incompetence. But, of course, whenever Elon Musk or any Republican administrator comes out and says some insane shit, you have to, unfortunately, go and do a little bit of reading to figure out what's actually going on. It is truly frustrating. On a totally different note, it is insanely frustrating that when a government employee now says anything, I immediately am like, that's definitely wrong. It's annoying, okay? No, don't say, wow, now it's good to do your own research. Like, yes, it should not be that way, okay? Yes, when a federal government employee says something, it should be at least kind of true, okay? Maybe I'm crazy, call me woke, or call me a liberal, maybe, okay? But with like the exception of, I don't know, the State Department or whatever, okay? Even with the State Department, there is the expectation from me is, just say things that are at least kind of true. Okay? Really, seriously. Like, they don't even, like, at least back in the day, they had some skin in the game. They wanted to do some semblance of like institutional preservation. So they basically would at least like massage the truth. Right now, they just straight up will just be like, yeah, there are There are 700 million people on Social Security, and every single one of them is 180 years old. And it's like, okay, well, that's not true. Like, that's literally just not, like, there is, I know that that's not true. And it's not 180, it's 150. And the number is actually 400 million, according to Elon Musk. But I'm just giving you an exaggerated example. It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating that, like, every fucking day they come out. Maybe this is a super dumb thing to get annoyed by. Maybe I'm silly, okay? But it makes me so mad that virtually everything that this government says is not only just a lie, but it's also the stupidest kind of lie. And also, every single fucking person that is a supporter of this administration, this regime, immediately believes it and starts repeating it over and over and over again. Obviously intentional. I don't think it's that intentional. I don't think Ezra Klein, they're doing a media blitz to, like, keep you paying attention to, like, silly things to make you feel tired and scared. I don't think that's correct. I don't think that it's a strategy. I think they're just fucking stupid. I think we're giving them too much credit. No, they realized lying is awesome and it works because there is no apparatus to successfully combat this kind of stuff because nobody trusts mainstream media anymore. So they just lie. That's it. You don't have to be super brilliant to lie, especially in the way that they lie, because the way that they lie is not even, like, in any way, shape, or form giving credit to the previous liars of previous administrations, whether they were the government stooges of the past, such as, like, the George H.W. Bushes of the world, or whether it be people that at least cared about, like, the idea that the American government is a functioning body and that they will massage the truth, but they won't actually just straight up come out and be like, yeah, actually, Social Security was giving every trans person $1 million. We should kill the trans people now because Social Security was giving them $1 million. Who's going to check me? No one. You know what I mean? That's literally that is the modus operandi. That is how they're operating. Every fucking day, they'll come out and be like, yeah, we found out that Social Security was giving $1 billion to anyone who is of Guatemalan descent, actually, as long as they're undocumented. And then everybody believes it. Like, how? What are you saying right now? That is the most insane thing I've ever heard. But I said, once again, I repeat this, it is not like some brilliant thing. Okay, I don't think this is a brilliant strategy to, like, flood the market. I don't think that they have, like, a coherent, well-established worldview. I don't even think that they're in allegiance with one another. I would say that broadly, there's, like, 3 different camps within the administrative state at this moment. Okay, you have the Republican institutional defenders, like the Mitch McConnells of the world. They're a dying breed, but they still very much are represented in, like, even the Federalist Society, judges and justices and whatnot. Some of them do care about, like, institutional preservation. You have the billionaire fucking kleptocrats that don't care about anything, but that just want to do the Curtis Yarvin gutting of all institutions and create, like, this weird techno monarchy. Okay. And then you have the MAGA guys who are just loyal to Trump, and that's it. Okay. Broadly defined, I feel like there's 3 camps. There's 3 different camps in the Republican Party. None of them agree with one another. None of them want the same things. They're all just basically held together by resentment towards libtards. Okay? Pretty much. Resentment towards libtards, and the Republican, the institution defenders that are Republican, like the old school Republicans, obviously care about deregulation and tax cuts for the wealthy and stuff. So they're fine with the kleptocrats running the show. And the MAGA guys are too stupid to recognize that this actually harms them. This doesn't help them at all. So that's basically it. That's, like, how they've been able to create this delicate allegiance. But I don't think that they have, like, long-term plans that are, I don't think they have long-term plans that are directly aligned with one another. Okay? But at the end of the day, they're not putting forth, like, a brilliant strategy that requires a lot of forethought and is deliberately destroying confidence in the media or whatever, right? I think they're just straight up lying. That's it. Like a child that learned the wrong lessons. Maybe a child who lied and then got benefits from it and realized, oh, there's no repercussions for this. I'm just going to keep doing it over and over again. And that's where we're at right now. Let's take a look at what Jesse Waters said in terms of, the practical uses of lying.
It's not really the same. Dana, we are waging a first century information warfare campaign against the left, and they are using tactics from the 1990s. They are holding tiny press conferences, tiny little rallies. They're screaming into the ether on MSNBC. This is what you call top-down command and control. You get your talking points from a newspaper, and you put it on the broadcast network. And
also, one of the funniest aspects of the way they constantly do this, and there's like similarities with how like online drama amongst content creators work as well. It's always projection. It's the most annoying projection of all time. They're like, oh, the notes come down from the big guys up top, and then MSNBC repeats it. Like, does that happen to a certain degree? Absolutely. Okay. Yes. MSNBC are the, regime defenders when the regime is liberal, for sure. MSNBC also is comprised almost entirely of former Republicans and current Republicans. Everyone on mainstream news is a Republican. It's like, oh, did you work for George W. Bush at the peak of the war on terror? Did you justify torture? Please step right ahead. Be our progressive commentator, please. That's literally what it is. It's like the entirety of mainstream outlets are dominated by center-right and far-right psychopaths across the board. Okay? And yes, there are still exceptions, all right? Give me a break. Yes, Chris Hayes is not a Republican, okay? He's literally a Hasanabi head. I love when people just like actively choose to misunderstand the point I'm making. Not every single person on MSNBC is a Republican, okay? Although they do align quite frequently with Republican strategies and Republican policies in general. Center right, you are so American, dude. Yes, I 100% will stand by the statement I am making here. The modern Democratic Party's broader strokes are all center right. Okay? Kamala Harris ran against socialized medicine, even though Kamala Harris ran against socialized medicine, even though she initially in 2019 in her failed primary campaign was pro-Medicare for all. Kamala Harris ran towards a more muscular military. Kamala Harris ran towards muscular border policy. This is not a controversial take. These are center-right positions. Okay? Those guys are just right-wing at least, not center-right. What? I'm confused as to what your perspective is here. Okay? And they were full tilt on the complete destruction of Palestinian statehood and Palestinian lives in general. Okay? I think maybe you're saying that the Democrats are just like right-wing and then the Republicans are far-right, which fine, I agree. Okay. If that's what you're saying, I agree with you. Oh, then yeah, I agree with you. This is okay. I thought you were trying to say something different. There's this sentiment amongst the left that the center left doesn't exist. I mean, it kind of doesn't. It kind of does not exist. Okay? And I'll tell you why. It's because I think liberalism requires you to not really maintain any sort of hardline approach beyond, I guess, like some social progressive perspectives. But like you almost entirely agree with the Republicans on economic policy because the center, the fundamentals within liberals and Republicans, liberals in America and Republicans in America, the fundamentals are the same. It's like the protection of private property and never really actively pushing for any kind of like labor protections beyond marginal improvements. And you're not even playing catch up at that point. You're basically trying to plug some holes to the best of your ability. Like this kind of stuff it's clearly not bringing about the material change that people want to see. Okay? Center left doesn't. It is just easier to say you're moderate, but given more left policies, most people would agree with them. Center left to me means you just don't follow politics too much. Yeah. Anyway, but let's get back to the right wing, okay? Actively projecting and claiming that all the notes are coming down the top. And that's why we have to do full-scale information war.
And then it disappears. What you're seeing on the right is asymmetrical. It's like grassroots guerrilla warfare. Someone says something on social media, Musk retweets it, Rogan podcasts it, Fox broadcasts it, and by the time it reaches everybody, millions of people have seen it. It's free money. And we're actually talking about expressing information. They are suppressing information. It's not really the same. Dana, we are...
Yeah, real grassroots, dude. I love when I explain a grassroots movement by explaining astroturfing and how it works and how it is entirely directed by right-wing billionaires, which is what's going on. Is every Fox News commentator just Tim Pool now? They always were. Anyway, grassroots is the richest man on the planet, boosting his own posts on his own media platform for all of his sycophants. Yeah, I know. That words have no meaning. But that's what I mean. The truth doesn't matter. If misinformation, if narrative overcomes the truth, okay? If narrative is more important than the actual, the actual truth, then the truth doesn't matter. There is no such thing as the truth at that point. If everybody believes it, then it might as well be the case. And that's where we're at currently. What is this? Why should there an entire class in this country that is immunized from prosecution for committing felonies? What? You seem to be talking about collective insanity. Yes, I am talking about that because that's precisely where we are. In many respects, that is precisely where we are. Anyway, and I do think that as America is bouldering towards collective psychosis and also undermining quite a good deal of decent government programs and gutting their funding, engaging in mass layoffs, other competent countries are not going to engage in that. The only countries that are going to engage in that are countries that are going to be forced to engage in that sort of thing. Okay? Western European nations, for example. This is why I covered the problem with the whole Europe has to build its own standing army now narrative. Because in order to build your own standing army, you're going to have to start doing austerity. You're going to have to continuously cut social safety nets in an effort to fund a military that is competent. Okay? And it will be beneficial for a lot of European leaders in the same way that it was beneficial for our American leaders who are in the pocket of the military-industrial complex. Europe is going to go through its own version of this this industrial military Keynesianism policies that America has been going through for decades now. It's really, really scary stuff, I think, especially if you enjoy these life-saving programs for the most part. But speaking of saving lives, let's talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Once again, another plane has flipped yesterday, arriving at the Toronto airport. Many people will say it's actually icy conditions. I say it's DEI. Turns out it is DEI or die, okay? Not the other way around. Planes are flipping left and right. Planes are falling out of the sky, folks. And if you're wondering why that's happening, let me tell you, okay? Turns out it was not just a buzzword. Turns out it was holding everything together, okay? It was holding what remains of our capitalist eroded institutions together, okay? It was the tape that held everything. Pete Buttigieg and the gay sex he was having was literally making sure that transportation maintained, commerce could flow, okay? If Pete Buttigieg was a straight man, you guys thought Palestine, Ohio was bad, okay? He held it together. Do you understand? And we had no idea. I was so wrong, and I apologize. Pete Buttigieg, I apologize to you, sir. It turns out you were keeping it all together. We were wrong. Me, but with pilots when I get on a plane now.
How you doing, my man? What can I get you?
My man? Yeah, can I get a large caramel sassafras, please?
My guy, that's one of my favorites.
My guy? Hold on, man. Hold on. I'm not seeing no tote bag.
Oh, I don't got one. I got a backpack.
A backpack? Okay, it looks like you haven't dyed your hair in months. Are you stable?
I've never dyed my hair.
You've never dyed your hair.
Yeah, no, we don't fuck with coffee shops that don't have at least one employee with a septum piercing, okay? And we don't fuck with airlines that don't have pilots that are at least in a polyamorous relationship. You understand me? I want, at the very least, for my pilot to say he, she, or they, or zim, zer, fuck it, whatever you want, neo pronouns, I don't give a shit, to tell me that they are ace aromantic. I'm not getting on no plane until the pilot tells me that they're ace aromantic, okay? And they got bipolar disorder or DID, fuck it, I don't even care. Something, okay? We gotta have pronouns in the cockpit. We need more pronouns in the motherfucking cockpit. I'll say it. I'm sick and tired of it. We need it. If you are a straight white man, okay? If you're a straight white man, I want nothing to do with you. If you are a straight white man, you need to drop everything, okay? You are no longer allowed. You need to go suck a dick, okay? At least one penis before you can man the joysticks again, okay? You understand me? I'm done. I'm done.
No.
Why? Hold on, brother. Are you straight?
That's a weird question.
Just answer the question, yes or no, are you straight?
Yeah, I am. What?
Go ahead and put that coffee down, man. Go ahead and shut this whole operation down, man.
Why?
My man, how am I gonna get a camel sassafras, no sass, huh? Huh? Straight as a board? You gonna make me a cup of joe? Get the fuck up out of here. What the fuck are we talking about? No, man, I need you to pick me up, man. Cause they got straight baristas in the coffee shop, man. I don't even know what the fuck is going on anymore. I mean, you're going to work, you want a cup of gay coffee. We got straight McGee here, fucking just fucking the shit up, man.
I agree. But instead of baristas, I'm talking pilots, okay? We're no longer maintaining this position just for baristas. We're talking air traffic control. We're talking pilots. We're talking, you know, people who work in travel safety of any sort, okay? We're done. We're done with this whole no DEI shit. We're done, okay? It's like, what, a month in with no DEI? Planes are falling out of the sky every goddamn day. We can't do this. We fucked up. Bring it back. Bring it back instantly.
We're going to begin this morning, though, with the incredible stories of survival after the terrifying crash of a Delta flight. Guarantee you've never seen anything like this before. Take a look. The video shows the plane as it skids, catches fire, and then flips upside down. That's right, a plane upside down on the tarmac as it lands at Toronto's Pearson Airport.
I think it's pretty crazy, by the way. Didn't you say Toronto? Yeah, but it's an American flight coming in from the United States. It is a testament to plane safety that this right here led to 0 deaths. Just so you understand. Like, that is crazy, okay? That's number one. Number two, Austin, well, my plane expert said that this was very unlikely due to pilot error. Don't know if the pilots were like, you know, gay, black, white, woke, all jokes aside, you know, the whole DEI narrative aside. This was most likely pilot error, it seems.
80 people on board when this happened on a flight. It started in Minneapolis. Many were injured, but the big news, the great news, the good news here is nobody died in this crash. Tom Hansen is at Toronto's Pearson Airport with more on this story. Tom, you've got 80 grateful people this morning. Good morning to you.
Yeah, no doubt, Gail. Good morning to you as well. Well, the 2 runways involved in this crash are still closed this morning as the investigation continues. We're learning more about a couple of the people who were more seriously injured, a 40-year-old woman, a 60-year-old man, both in critical condition this morning. 16 other passengers walked away with minor injuries, but still there are so many questions about how this crash happened in the first place.
I mean, the video
New
itself,
video shows the moment a Delta regional jet crash landed at the Toronto Pearson Airport Monday afternoon. You see it catch fire as it skids across the tarmac before rolling.
pilot error, but like pilot had crosswinds, wind shear, and other factors to consider. Yeah, I mean, he came in too hot. There's crosswinds, and then, you know,
over, surrounded by a plume of black smoke. TMZ obtained this angle of the crash landing.
I'm done, dude. I'm done. I think I'm done. I'm done. Like, how is it TMZ that is like always doing just peak journalism? What the fuck is going on, man?
The aircraft starts.
Never seen these plane crashes in all 30 years of my living. Yeah, I mean, look. Do you want my honest assessment now that we're done making jokes about DEI and stuff? Everything in Western society, okay, virtually everything is getting marginally worse and worse due to the profit motive, okay? This didn't magically happen overnight once Trump became president, okay? That is precisely the reason why it's not gay or black people that are at fault for all of these plane crashes, just like it wasn't gay or black people at fault when Boeing planes were having their fucking doors explode mid-flight, okay? And this is, by the way, yet another Boeing plane for the record. So there is, I mean, it could possibly be that there was some sort of error on the landing gear side too. But the reality of the matter is, it's just shitification. Okay? That's it. No, it's not. It's not a Boeing plane. Oh, it's a Bombardier. It's a Mitsubishi CRJ. Okay, regardless, every single type of plane, like every company that creates products that are supposed to have 700 different types of redundancies have been cutting corners nonstop. The other side of the story, the other side of the issue is also, ironically, labor related, because there are a million different hands that are supposed to touch everything that we take for granted, that we assume is just safe to either consume or, services that we take advantage of. Okay, all the way from the luggage handlers to flight attendants to actual pilots to air traffic control. Every aspect of this is hit by constant efficiency-seeking, profit-seeking corporate overlords that basically cut the existing labor force to the best of their ability. Okay, and it's happening. It was happening under the Biden administration. It's happening under the Trump administration at an alarming rate as well. Okay, are you afraid of flying? No, I'm still not afraid of flying. But the reality of the matter is, it's not just flight. It's not just air travel. Every aspect of America, every aspect of American society, every aspect of the Western world has these exact same issues. And slowly but surely, deregulation and mass layoffs at the behest of efficiency, making a smaller workforce do the job of a much larger workforce, like overworking a reduced workforce over and over again, is inevitably going to lead to more issues like this. It's not just going to make air travel worse, it's going to make everything worse. And it already has made everything worse. Okay? That's it. How many weeks out do you think we are from Trump and Elon privatizing the interstate highway system? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You were right. Something is fucked up this year, mid-February, and already several aviation incidents. I think there's another part of this that obviously creates like more panic because more people focus on otherwise like commonplace incidents as well. And then they package them with like significantly larger problems. Like, this story is a big deal. Luckily, there was no fatalities. And it's packaged alongside a much larger story with a mid-air collision. And it's packaged alongside like, the Japanese the pilots in Seattle, Tacoma experiencing like a minor bump after landing when they're basically taxiing, right? Like that's not as significant, but in your mind, you just see like so many plane incidents over and over again. And you basically start assuming that it's just planes are falling out of the sky nonstop. Okay, this one would have always made the news. Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just talking about like two planes colliding after, like briefly colliding after, like during taxi is that's commonplace. It's not like that significant, but it becomes a significant story because there's a lot of aviation incidents that are in the news. I reported on this after the East Palestine, Ohio train derailment. People hyper-focused on train derailments, not realizing that there were more than 1,000 train derailments, both large and small, every single year. Okay? Are you saying incidents are not rising? No, no, no. That's not what I'm saying at all. There are definitely a lot of incidents that are high profile for good reason. But I think that still, if you're asking me, like, is it truly terrifying? Is it truly like unsafe to travel? I don't think so. At least not yet. Like for me, what am I going to do? Not fly? Well, I have to. You know what I mean?
Upside down and burning.
Images of the aftermath show the plane upside down on the tarmac, its wings and tail ripped off, and its landing gear pointed towards the sky.
Everything, drop it. Come on.
Flight attendants and crew members rushed to help stunned passengers strapped upside down in their seatbelts escape the wreckage.
It sounded, I mean, it was just cement and metal, you know.
Pete Carlson, who was traveling to a paramedics conference, was on the frightening flight.
All of a sudden, everything just kind of went sideways. And then next thing I know is kind of a blink and I'm upside down, still strapped in.
He says he knew he had to get off the plane quickly.
Took my seatbelt off, which I had obviously left fastened for the landing. And as I took it off, crashed down onto the ceiling, which had become the floor.
Passengers looked on in shock as emergency...
Is this why you fly private? I mean, ironically enough, private aviation is significantly more dangerous than commercial air travel. So I've heard a lot of people talking about how, like, oh, Elon's going to gut like the FAA or take control over the FAA or air traffic control. And, you know, even Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was talking about like, well, we should force Elon to like travel commercial then. And it's funny to say that because it doesn't really change the dynamic at all. Private air travel also relies on like the National Weather Service, for example, or air traffic control, and probably even more than even commercial air travel would have to rely on them. So the idea that like you can avoid if you fly private, you can avoid like air incidents due to limited funding for air traffic control is false. Why are you so greedy if you're a socialist? I'm not. I love capitalism. Incidents aren't rising. Media is just hyper-focusing. Richest socialist. Ironic. Yeah. Thank you for your brilliant statement. I love capitalism. Okay. Can we get back to, you know, this kind of stuff happening now? Is that okay? Private is more dangerous than public. Yeah. Yeah. Private air travel is definitely more dangerous.
Responders immediately began spraying down the plane's charred fuselage. Despite the devastating damage, officials say all 80 people on board, including 76 passengers and 4 crew members, survived.
It's really important that we do not speculate. What we can say is the runway was dry and there was no crosswind conditions.
At the time of the incident, visibility was down to 6 miles, and there were wind gusts up to 37 miles per hour. Air traffic control was heard warning the pilots.
Might get a slight bump in the glide path. There'll be an aircraft in front of it.
Billy Nolan, former acting FAA administrator, calls it a remarkable escape.
A bit miraculous to wind upside down, and yet we've got 80 folks who walk off this plane and with no fatality. So I'll mark that as a win for us.
Yeah, it's true.
And I want to read
it's
you
a testament to the safety, if anything. Like even in a situation like that, that's wild. It's wild that there was 0 fatalities in that. I'm sorry, that's just insane.
A statement from Delta Airlines that they were.
That's not a win. That's a tie. No, that's a win for sure. That's absolutely a win.
Released. They say the hearts of the entire global Delta family are with those affected by today's incident. Tony, nothing short of a miracle.
Yeah, it really is, Tom. Thank you very much. Let's talk more about it with Chris Van Cleve. He's going to talk about the investigation and how this all could have happened. Chris, good morning to you.
Yeah, someone actually just pointed this out. How many people die if a Greyhound bus flips? A Greyhound bus is flipping at much slower speeds, and it will still kill so many more people. Okay? 0? Are you kidding me? Do you know how many fatalities occur in traffic incidents on a daily basis? Are you out of your mind? Bro, driving around in your car, not to be the actually guy, but The reality of the matter is driving around in your car is infinitely less safe than commercial air travel, okay? Like, not to be the annoying nerd, but that is the truth, okay?
You're a veteran of...
Car isn't a bus. No, just any kind of vehicle, okay? Any kind of vehicle. Moving the goalposts, how many on buses? Wait, what?
Of covering aviation in general, transportation.
Like per capita.
You've seen the videos as we have. What do you make of what you're looking at?
Well, I think what you can see from the TMZ video looking behind as it's coming into land, this appears to be a very hard landing, followed by a collapse of one of the rear landing gear, perhaps, because you see the plane sort of shift down to the side right before that engine starts to flame. That'll be a good starting point for investigators. You know, did the impact, the hardness of that landing, result in the gear collapsing? Did the gear collapse because of other reasons? That's not going to be told by the video, but certainly these new images give us a sense of what appeared to be a very hard landing. You don't see the typical kind of flare up that you would see as a plane would come into land, where you bring the nose up just a little bit right at landing to sort of smooth it out. This one looks like they came in almost like a carrier landing, straight in. A hard landing. They were dealing likely with winds at that time. We had heard gusts up to 40 miles an hour when they were coming in. So all of that will be significant. This video does give investigators a pretty good starting point as they make their list of what they want to know and what they need to find out.
Tom Hansen described it as a miracle. I certainly believe in miracles.
Yeah, well,
when you look at this.
I mean,
this is also a good point, okay? Ain't no miracle. Credit a top-notch union cabin crew from AFA-CWA and layers of science-backed FAA safety guidelines about everything from airframe design to seatbelt strength to evacuation speed. No passengers died in part because the government workers did their job. Yeah. And the more you undermine each aspect of this, as our private corporations desperately try to do on a daily basis, the more you make sure that these quote-unquote miracles don't happen. Okay? It is no more a miracle than the concept of flight to begin with, okay? Understandably, air travel has to be unimaginably safe. Understandably, it is an affront to God that you're up in the fucking sky flying around, okay? It is ridiculous. So obviously, it has to be incredibly safe. There is a tremendous amount of redundancies built into commercial air travel in general. There are also an insane amount of safety and regulation that comes in that is supposed to be working in real time, not just in the building of the equipment, but also in terms of like regulating air travel in general.
Context for us, if you could, Chris. One of the passengers said that they were upside down like bats in a cave, just hanging there with their seatbelts on. How unusual is it in any kind of airline incident for the plane to be upside down at the end?
Well, it's certainly very unusual, but clearly something that was thought about when they designed not only the aircraft, but those seats. The seats are designed to withstand many times the force of gravity. And if you ever wanted a lesson as to why people tell you to wear your seatbelts on the airplane, this was it.
Bro, I'm keeping it $150. I'm never taking those off, dude. I was Mr. Oh, I'm taking the seatbelt off instantly as soon as the rubber hits the road. Okay, I'm Mr. Efficiency. I'm Mr. Min-maxing. I always take the seatbelt off immediately. Okay, as soon as the light turns off, as soon as the seatbelt light turns off, I'm like, pfft. Okay, or as soon as the plane lands, the moment that the plane lands, phone's on, off of airplane mode, seatbelts off. Never again. Okay, never again.
In those seats saved lives. The flight attendants, you hear when you're coming into land that they need to prepare the cabin for landing, and they go through and they collect glasses and everything else, things that could become projectiles. They tell you to put your bags away and your laptops away. The reason they...
Yeah, I never fully understood it until now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it now. I totally get it now. I'm clapping for the pilots as long as they're gay, okay? I'm not clapping for no white male pilots, let me tell you, okay? Or if I'm clapping for a white male heterosexual pilot, I'm assuming that they're in a polyamorous relationship in my headcanon to make sure, like...
They do that is for a scenario like this, where things go wrong and those items could be flying about the cabin and injure passengers. By securing them, it also means that there's not clutter on the way out of the airplane. In this case, the exit path was the ceiling.
Yeah.
That is
Chris?
such a good reminder, Chris.
really is.
Oh, man.
Great
I hadn't
answer.
thought of it that way, even though we hear it time and time again.
Great
Really
reminder.
good, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
How did it happen? Investigators are still trying to figure out why a Delta Airlines flight crashed, flipped upside down, and caught fire after landing Monday at Toronto's Pier.
The white male pilots are all cheating on their spouses anyway? Yeah, with me. We're gay now, okay? No more heterosexual pilots. No more heterosexuality. It's over, okay? It's done.
Pearson International Airport.
Someone has to suck these dicks around these parts. You understand me? Someone has to be engaging in the act of butt sex, okay? For the safety of others. Do you understand? No more straights.
Come on.
It's done. It's over. We're done.
Remarkably, all 80 people on board made it out alive. There were at least 18 people injured. Listen to this exchange between air traffic control and a medevac pilot just moments after impact.
Where's the crash? It's on runway 23, right at threshold, right at this intersection there, 23 and 15 left. On Life Flight 1 medevac, just so you are, there's people outside walking around the aircraft there. Yeah, we've got it. The aircraft there's upside down and burning.
When the plane
Insane.
came to rest, buckled passengers found themselves hanging upside down. At least one wing of the aircraft torn off, the plane on fire.
It was mass chaos. I was upside down. The lady next to me was upside down. We kind of let ourselves go and fell to hit the ceiling, which is surreal feeling. And then everybody was just like, get out, get out, get out.
We didn't really know anything was the matter, or at least I didn't, until like the second we hit the ground. There was no like real indication of anything. And then, yeah, we hit the ground and we were sideways and then we were upside down, hanging like bats.
Absolutely incredible. Let's bring in CNN transportation analyst Mary Schiava. Mary, based on the footage and what we know so far, have you been able to draw any initial conclusions about what could have happened here?
Well, yes, the footage and then also the air traffic control communications and the weather alerts, METARs, meteorological warnings that are specific to the airport. And so the plane was coming in. They did have warnings that the winds were 23 to 37 knots, which is pretty tough on a Canadair regional jet 900. Then they had crosswind warnings of maybe 30 to 40 knots, which depending upon the conditions at the airport, can exceed actually the recommended performance for the Canadair regional jet. They were coming down, there was some variation according to publicly available radar and the ground speed and the sink rate. So that means they were getting gusts of wind as they were coming down, and they smacked down pretty hard according to the eyewitness or the ear witness reports and those people on the plane right at the end of the threshold of the runway. And at that point, what looks like might have happened from very grainy videotape from other cameras is the landing gear, the rear gear, might have snapped off at that point, along with the right wing, which with the left wing still on the plane, lifts the plane, causing a plane to roll and cartwheel. That's my best guess. It's only a guess at this point, and the investigators will have it real soon because they have the pilots to talk to, and of course the flight data recorders.
Yeah, a true miracle.
See the left wing once again working. The right wing destroyed. What does this tell you? What does this tell you? Are you grabbing your Steam Deck in this situation or not? No, I'm not grabbing the Steam Deck. But I am definitely grabbing my remote desktop setup and my IRL backpack. There ain't no way, especially the IRL backpack, I am not leaving that behind, okay? That is not happening. You down for some Jube King? No. No. What are you saying? Why would I ever watch Michael Knowles debate 25 LGBTQ plus activists? That's a crazy question. My man said Jube too. Like he's like, that's ban-worthy, dude. Like he likes Jubilee so much. He likes Jubilee so much that he calls it the Jube.
That there are so many people that they can interview about what happened because everyone survived this crash landing. CNN safety analyst David Susi drew some similar observations about what may have caused the crash, including some of those questions about the landing gear. I'd like to play that.
Yeah, bro's not even on a first name basis. He gave it like a play nickname to Jubilee. So is that a no? It's not just a no, it's a fuck no.
And get your response.
There are a lot of clues that you can see right away. The things I'd be looking at right away are, was it a hard landing? We look at the fact that the landing gear aren't on the aircraft. So are they there, or did they get torn off in the accident, or perhaps they weren't even down at the time? So there's a lot of questions, but I think a quick visual of the aircraft on site would give them a lot of clues as to where this goes.
Mary, you mentioned the fact that you believe that the landing gear snapped off upon impact, but how could investigators prevent something like this from happening in the future? Is it a matter of de-icing the plane, clearing the runway, or simply not flying or landing in conditions as dangerous as the ones you were describing?
Well, every plane has its own limits, and this one has more crosswind limits than, for example, a larger plane. But Toronto Pearson, that's a great airport. It operates around the year, around the clock, and they do have all the services to clear the runway. But you can see even the videotape there was tremendous blowing winds, blowing snow, etc. And that reduces the crosswind limits of the Canadair regional jet and all jets tremendously. So, for example, you might have a 37 crosswind allowance for that aircraft, but if the runway is not clear, if it's icy, if there's reduced braking, et cetera, that could fall to as low as a 15-knot crosswind. So what you have to do is every pilot and every airline has to make their decisions based on the operational limits of that aircraft.
Mary, there are going to be questions, perhaps reasonably, about just the frequency of some of these crashes that we've seen, with obviously different outcomes. But in just the last 30 days, you had the midair collision above the Potomac River in Washington, D.C., with 67 victims. You had the medevac flight that crashed outside Philadelphia with 7 victims. A Bering Air.
Jesus Christ! I mean, when you put it like that, it doesn't feel too good. You know what I'm saying?
Flight in Alaska that had 10 victims, and of course, miraculously, just 18 injured in that crash landing in Toronto that we were just discussing. Do you see this as a coincidence? Do you see this in perhaps a lapse in safety, in personnel? Are there any dots that we can connect here?
Well, with the last two, weather certainly played an important role, both in Alaska and in this crash. And it's, the tough winter conditions.
What is this? I don't know who this person is. The Boeing 737 MAX. Turns out FAA are ignoring the fatal design flaw. Do not panic. .news. Boeing is covering up another. Who is this guy? Nate Bear's reputable. I don't know who this person is. It's just a Substack. So I don't know. The litigation against the airlines in these multiple crashes is going to effectively kill the airlines. Do you think there's going to be another government bailout of the airlines? First of all, the answer is always yes. If you're asking me, is there going to be another government bailout? The answer is yes. Secondly, I'm not so certain these airlines are going to be buried under mass amounts of litigation. Part of the reason why I'm not so certain is because things are getting worse and worse at an alarming rate in a way that favors corporations regardless. So I just don't see, they kind of bake this they bake this legal framework, or this kind of litigation into their profit margins. It's not completely correct, obviously, when they do end up causing a bunch of serious incidents like this in a row. There will be more litigation than before. More so than what they've actually baked into their profit margins. But I do think that they, they have very powerful lawyers. No, I haven't seen Stephen A. Smith on Last Pod on the Left, Coffee Pillar. I'm not going to watch that, most likely. Okay. Is it about the oil intake during a bird strike event causing toxic fumes inside the plane through the AC system? All right. Anyway, this seems too complicated for me. The fatal flaw in the Boeing 737 MAXs.
And it depends on the operational limits of your aircraft, and sometimes just freak winds and other issues. But for the other two, there's no commonality. And what we always looked for, when I was with the Department of Transportation, you look for patterns, you look for trends, you look for data that you can connect. Now, of course, in the Washington D.C. flight, they had.
Anyway, listen. As I've said, if we're going to be super serious about this, okay, this is a obvious byproduct of reducing the workforce. Okay, first and foremost, on every side, on the production side, when you're making these planes, constant profit seeking that causes companies or makes companies look for outsourced manufacturing on different parts of the plane that don't have the same standard and safety measures in other countries deliberately, so it's cheaper. Okay. And in terms of like safety checks and inspections, you got less people doing safety checks, you got less people doing inspections, they're more overworked, they have a tendency to overlook, they're human beings after all. The only way to eliminate those problems is by making sure that you have redundancies. Okay? A lot of people are so primed towards constant min-maxing and constant efficiency that they forget that there is one area where you cannot do efficiency, and that is safety. Okay? You just can't do that. If you're maxing out profits, then you are going to hurt safety measures. Okay? Airplanes in general are, or the process of manufacturing airplanes in general is something that I'm obviously very familiar with due to my familial relations with someone who has built airplanes in the past and now builds spaceships, as a matter of fact. And from my understanding, these things are built in a way where there is a million different redundancies built into it. Okay? All of those redundancies are points that are unprofitable. But the reason why there are redundancies built into it is because it has to be endlessly safe. Oh my God, this person is still fucking talking about. Okay, take a day off with the CPR class, please. You're being annoying. I'm giving you a day off timeout because you're being annoying. Like, you can have a correct point about everybody learning CPR safety and still be annoying and derail the conversation, which is what this person is doing, which is why I'm, giving you a day off, please.
Had some very consistent data, and that is they had, I think, probably 100 or so alerts that the helicopter traffic was causing conflict, loss of airspace, separation with commercial air traffic. So that's a very important trend that somebody should have recognized long before this fatal crash in Washington, D.C. With the others, there's no commonality. So you're always looking for if there's a trend.
There is a commonality. It's capitalism. It's profit seeking. Anyway, speaking of reducing the workforce at the behest of eliminating redundancies, here's another aspect where you simply cannot cheap out, okay, which is safety. FAA employee fired by the Trump administration expresses shock over removal. The Trump administration is also obviously while all of these planes are falling out of the sky or, having all these like weird incidents over and over again. Okay. On the other hand, our brilliant government is supercharging dreams of the Reaganite era of the past, or finishing the job that Reagan started, basically. All right, here it is.
In this country, Trump's acting Social Security commissioner stepped down over the weekend. According to multiple reports, she had resisted letting Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency look inside the agency's most sensitive records. The White House is saying that DOJ is looking to eliminate waste and fraud. And this morning, Nancy Cordes has the story of one of the thousands of federal workers already fired since Trump took office.
And I was in complete disbelief.
Monica, who asked us not to use her last name, was hired by the FAA in December to be an aviation safety assistant at Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yeah, if you know anything about the FAA aviation safety inspectors, we simply have too many of them, When I think of aviation safety, I think the guys responsible for it, there's probably too many, okay? We need to make it less safe, please. That's what I think. Like, there is no world in which, especially on this side of things, but you can make this argument for virtually every aspect of the federal government, where there is need for less people, okay? No, there's need for more people. Understaffing is so commonplace everywhere, okay? There is a problem with understaffing in virtually all aspects of the regulatory agencies, virtually all aspects of all the goods and services that you consume in general. Okay, there's understaffing issues at hospitals with nurses. There's understaffing issues everywhere. Okay, the notion that we need less people or fewer people, sorry, thank you, grammar Nazi, fewer people and not more people is ridiculous.
Worth Airport. She was part of the team that filed inspections and reports on the American Airlines fleet.
I personally did not feel that our positions were at risk for the simple fact that we are in the Flight Standards Safety Division. It says its name, right? Flight and Safety.
But on Friday, she was let go. With less than a year on the job, she had not yet received civil service protections. The stinging dismissal email blamed her performance and said, "You have not demonstrated that your further employment at the DOT FAA would be in the public interest."
There have been no negative comments or feedback until I got this letter about performance.
What this really does appear to be is just a purely false stated reason.
Employment lawyer Michal Shinar says the reason Trump's team has been citing performance in firings is because by law, probationary federal workers can only be removed for performance or misconduct.
We don't let an agency get around these congressional directives by just terminating our probationary employees and mass claiming it's performance when it's not.
They're firing every probationary worker with rare exceptions. They're saying that performance is below standards and firing probies, so they can't file for reinstatement via the MSPB.
She says the situation is ripe for class action lawsuits, while Trump officials insist these cuts are just a drop in the bucket. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy posting last night, quote, "The FAA alone has a staggering 45,000 employees. Less than 400 were let go."
Oh my
We're still
God.
waiting for the exact numbers of cuts at most other agencies like the CDC and NIH. Nate?
We will stay tuned. Nancy, thank you.
Isn't there already a shortage at the FAA? Why do this now?
I want to look at something, okay? Number of federal government employees in, or let's see, year over year, okay? The size of the federal workforce has grown from 1.8 million in 2019 to 2 million in 2023. Okay. But there was a time and place where I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but the federal workforce number was certainly larger. Federal workforce number, despite the fact that the American population has been growing. Okay. Executive branch civilian employment. How many federal employees were there? Yeah, in the 1950s, the federal government employed 1.4 million people. Wait, what? This is an AI overview. What the fuck? Oh, God, why is there so much? In the 1960s, that's incorrect. God damn it, AI overview. What the fuck is this number, bro? Look at this, AI overview. Thank you, Google. In the 1950s, the federal government employed what is this number, dude? It's not even 1.4 million. It's 1,433,753,686.485 people. I fucking hate AI so much. Okay. Yes. Thank you. The number of federal employees peaked in the 1990s at 3.4 million. Okay. God damn it. AI is so stupid. You did say lying is OP, so Google is just on top of the meta. Like, what use does this have? How could this be useful for anyone? You have to be truly a fucking dumbass, dude. Like, what would it, how, oh God. It's so stupid. It's so unimaginably stupid. Here, this is what I was actually looking at, okay? From the 19 forwards onward, okay? Obviously, in 1943, there was one big peak at 3 million, and the peak of federal employment in 1990 was 3.4 million. And since the 90s onward, we have slashed the federal workforce in spite of the fact that the number of our civilian population has grown, okay? Our population has grown dramatically overall. So the federal civilian employee per population, per capita, has gone down. Okay. So we have more people and less federal employees in that process. The little spikes are temporary census workers. Yeah. But overall, it grew and grew and grew. Like, and it, it was around 3 million, I guess. And then since then, it has just gone down. Bill Clinton had a drawdown on federal staffing due to the Cold War. Reagan also had fired people, Patco workers, etc. 300 to 400,000 people were fired under Clinton. But the news is saying what Trump is doing is the same as Clinton. It patently isn't. Yeah, I mean, what Clinton did wasn't also great either, for the record. I hope you understand. So the government is more efficient now. It's more efficient in terms of, like, obviously readily available technology. Okay. Readily available technology makes every workforce more efficient. Like, what else has happened since the 90s? We have mass usage of the internet. We have smartphones. Obviously, it's more efficient, as in one person can do the job of many in significantly less time. That's efficiency. Okay? We have computers. Technological advancements unironically make things more efficient. But in that process, you're not supposed to fire the existing workforce. You're supposed to reduce their burden. You're supposed to reduce their workload. But of course, we don't operate like that because we're constantly fucking min-maxing. But especially when you pair this up with the explosive growth of the American population in that same time frame, you start realizing that perhaps we don't have enough employees for all of these jobs. And when you don't have enough employees for these jobs, you have shittier service overall. That's it. Firing them reduces their workload. What are you talking about? That's really funny. I'm talking about the existing labor force. Okay, Chatter, come on. Chatter has never worked, I don't think. I'm a fucking Twitch streamer, and even I understand. W Ragebait. Okay, good one. Yeah. And what a lot of people fail to understand is that, for example, when you go to the DMV and the service is ass, okay, even like the person that's working at the DMV, for example, is just angry all the time, seemingly, and you have to wait for hours. That is not because the government sucks. That's because they don't have enough employees, okay? That's it. It's always because of understaffing. I'll give you one example, okay? Luggage handlers. Luggage handlers is a great example. Airlines know full well when they're overloading their existing labor force, okay? But because of efficiency and because of cost-cutting measures, because labor is the most malleable aspect of all commodity production, okay? They just simply don't hire enough luggage handlers, okay? So when you go to the airport and you're like, why the fuck is my luggage not coming out? What the hell's going on? Why do I have to wait an hour and a half? I missed my transferring flight. I missed my connecting flight, okay? What is happening here? That is literally because the luggage handlers are overloaded, understaffed, and are doing shittier output as a consequence of that. You just see the shitty service there and you think, oh, these lazy pieces of shit. These lazy luggage handlers, man, they suck. Okay? But the reality of the matter is the reason why at the point of service, the reason why you're experiencing this this awful service is directly due to the company making these decisions at the behest of profit. Okay? Especially because most airlines, like in domestic air travel in the United States of America, it's basically an oligopoly. And in some markets, it's basically a monopoly. So what are you going to do? Not fly to your destination when it's the only method of travel? What are you going to do? No, you have to sit there frustrated and wait. Okay? That's how it works. But because we are so primed to thinking that it's actually our fellow workers that are responsible for these issues individually because of their ineptitude, incompetence, lack of care, lack of interest, laziness, or whatever, we never truly understand who is at fault. And it's a very frustrating process. When the lines of the grocery store are too long, it's the employee's fault. When the line of the post office is too long, it's because the government's bad. I mean, when the line at the post office is too long, it's still a direct consequence of the same exact thing that we were just talking about. Okay? The line at the post office is long because the post office is understaffed. Everything is understaffed. These guys are still actively advocating for more understaffing. And it's very stupid to do this. It's very dumb to do this. It's not the employee's fault at the grocery store. It is still understaffing. So it's technically the people that are in charge of those decisions that have caused this service to be worse overall.
Especially considering what's happened in the States. And now, of course, you have this other incident and a few others.
Yeah, well, this one happened in Canada, but
yes.
I can only tell you what the Secretary of Transportation says. There are 45,000 employees at the FAA. We're talking about fewer than 400 people, and he says 0 air traffic controllers and critical safety personnel were let go. So if that's true, I don't really have a problem with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I love this fucking dipshit, okay? I remember reading somewhere, I think it was like, it might have been like Felix or maybe Edinger Mentum, who was like, Scott Jennings is the perfect person for this administration because he's such a shameless, slimy asshole who will just sit there and be like, well, the marginal victory that the Trump administration had at a time of like historic inflation against a historically unpopular cadaver seemingly gives Donald Trump the heavens mandate, the popular mandate to do all of these like staff cuts. Okay. It's so annoying. Like, no, you do not have momentum. You do not have motion. You do not have popular mobilization, especially for cutting Social Security, okay?
I do like the idea of keeping the people who are in the direct chain of command of safety and the air traffic control system and so on and so forth. But I have a hard time believing that there is a single government agency.
Yeah, I had this exact, nice bathroom, you're 100% correct. We had this exact same conversation with Twitter, okay? Remember when Twitter employees were laid off? The conversation is the same. They were lazy and not innovating anyway, so what's the loss? Exactly. Twitter as a product is legitimately worse. Like, I don't know how you can't recognize that, right? And I told you, like, Twitter is a perfect example of the government, okay? It's like 1 for 1. Twitter, when it was run by woke liberals or whatever, right? It still sucked. There were still plenty of issues, but at least it was a more competent product that you could consume, okay? And then Elon Musk came in and gutted the entirety of the staff. Look where we're at now. Like, it still works. Like, the skeleton is still there, and it still kind of works. There's still major issues all the time. So people go, oh, dude, it's fine. What are you talking about? Every aspect of Twitter is awful. It got significantly worse than the Twitter of the past when it was run by at least like to some degree of competency by liberals, okay? It worse because it's not left. Holy shit, shut the fuck up. You guys had like all social media companies. Now the right have one and you cry like a bitch. First of all, that's not even what I'm talking about. Twitter is not just worse because it's all Nazis. Also, I like that you admit that it's just, Nazis are right wing. So I'm glad that you at least come to that recognition because it's not just right wingers. It's quite literally Nazis. Okay. Like Adolf Hitler ads and stuff. Okay. So on that front, it's qualitatively worse. Yes. But that's not even what I was talking about. When I said Twitter is actually worse now, I'm talking about like the trending tab. Yeah. Nazis. Really, dude? Really? Yeah, Nazis in air quotes. Like, what does a dude have to say? They Sig Heil regularly on there, man. What are you talking about? Like, if those guys aren't Nazis, who's a fucking Nazi? Nobody's a Nazi. Adolf Hitler is not a Nazi, is what you're basically arriving at this point. What the hell? There is no way you are this stupid. Yeah, hundreds of millions of Nazis. Twitter is not used by hundreds of millions of Americans, you dumbass. It doesn't even have 20% of the entire, like, no. Hundreds of millions of Nazis. Yeah, no. You're in your fantasy, it's hundreds of millions of American patriots that are now rushing to use Twitter. That's not the case, okay? Its user base has actually diminished since the Elon Musk takeover, okay? God damn, you are so dumb. Yeah, the only extra motion on Twitter is now just bots, okay? I wonder what this relatively small account that Elon Musk follows is. Oh, I see it just posts porn and Nazism only. Yeah, great stuff. He's like, oh, excuse me. Is this really a Nazi account? Yes, the answer is yes, okay? Yes, they're posting swastikas. Yes. Wow, look at this small account that Elon Musk follows. It's not subtle. This account tweets and retweets constantly about things like not wanting to hear R-worded blacks and their R-worded opinions, the need to make America blonde again, how America should be a white nation and celebrates Trump as the second coming of Hitler. Make South Africa white again. Make America blonde again. Really cool stuff. Wow, are you really saying? Yeah. What's next, Hassan? Are you going to say that this ad from Nixon Groyper is a Nazi ad? Imagine being born a Gentile in this generation on this continent located on an ocean away from Europe and viscerally hating this one foreign dictator from 80 years ago for no reason other than my teacher showed me Schindler's List, or the museum tour guide told us he turned Jews into soap, and still believing at the age of 30 or 40, Lamau. It's time to start reevaluating your perspective of history. That's just a pro-Hitler ad. Here's a pro-Hitler guy responding to Kyle Kulinski posting the pro-Hitler ad and going, Elon's site now has ads for Adolf Hitler, going, people are just asking questions, and rightfully so. Nixon Groyper. I don't understand. What's Nazi about that? Just curious. Just asking questions. Dumbass. Anyway, let's watch this other dumbass talk about his new executive orders before I get back to all of the government incompetence.
Here, I guess we can take a couple of quick questions. Go ahead, please. Please.
Specifically what the auto tariff rate should be?
Yeah, I probably will tell you that on April 2nd, but it'll be in the neighborhood of 25%.
Conductors and pharmaceuticals?
It'll be 25% and higher, and it'll go very substantially higher over a course of a year. But we want to give them time to come in because, as you know, when they come into the United States and they have their plan here, there is no tariff. So we want to give them a little bit of a chance. Yes, thank you.
The EU representative is going to be here in Washington tomorrow. He's going to be meeting with Hassett and Greer and Letnick. What can the EU do to sort of avoid the reciprocal tariffs that you've talked about? And, you've talked a lot about the VAT. Do you expect them to reduce that?
Well, they did already, as I understand it, reduce their car tariff all the way down to what we have. And a lot of that will take place, and I think some won't do it and some will do it. But the EU had a 10% tax on cars, and now they have a 2.5% tax, which is the
Please
exact
a little
same
louder.
as us.
I can't believe you guys want to hear
already
Trump.
We've saved a tremendous
but you got
amount.
it.
That would be great. If everybody would do that, then we'd all be on the same playing field. Because essentially what we're doing with the tariffs is, they charge us, we charge them, same amount. And it's called reciprocal, actually. And whatever they charge us, we're charging them. And so the EU is, I appreciate that they did this, but, the EU has been very unfair to us. We have a deficit of $350 billion. They don't take our cars. They don't take our farm products. They don't take almost anything. They take very little. And we're going to have to straighten that out. And we will. I have no doubt about it. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could you tell us a little bit more about the Russia talks, your impression of how they went today, and if you're perhaps more confident or less confident of a deal after what happened today?
Well, much more confident. They were very good. Russia wants to do something. They want to stop the savage barbarianism. I mean, what's going on over there? It's soldiers are being killed by the thousands on a weekly basis. It's ridiculous. And they're not American soldiers. They're Russian soldiers and they're Ukrainian soldiers largely, although a lot of Koreans have been killed, as you know. Quite a bit of them have been killed. They came over to fight, and a large portion have been wiped out. But we want to end it. It's a senseless war. It should have never happened. Would have never happened if I was president. And it's a shame to see it. And I see pictures that you don't see, but I see pictures of fields that look just horrible. It looks like Gettysburg. If you see the old pictures of Gettysburg, it's soldiers lying all over the field, body parts all over the field. They're all dead. And this is going on a daily basis. It's a horrible thing. Both Russia and Ukraine, they're losing thousands and thousands of soldiers. And a lot of people have been killed, too. I think that's one of the things that you'll see historically and you'll see later on as it goes along. I think people are going to be surprised at how many people, not only soldiers, have been killed in Ukraine. A lot more people than you think. Yeah, please.
President Trump, as part of a peace deal with Putin, would you be willing to consider removing all American troops from Europe?
Well, nobody's asked me to do that, so I don't think we'd have to do that. I wouldn't want to do that. But that question's never really come up. Yeah, please.
Sir, do you support stationing European peacekeeping troops in Ukraine as part of this peace deal?
If they want to do that, that's great. I'm all for it. If they want to do that, I think that'd be fine. I mean, I know France has mentioned it. Others have mentioned it. UK has mentioned it, but if we have a peace deal, I think having troops over there from the standpoint of Europe, we won't have to put any over there because, we're very far away. But having troops over there would be fine. I would not object to it at all. We're talking about this now, peace. We have either a ceasefire or a peace itself, and we're looking to do both. We'd start off with the ceasefire, and if they want to do that, I know France was willing to do that, and I thought that was a beautiful gesture. Yeah, please.
Do you have any message for Ukrainians who, after 3 years of fighting, might feel betrayed or disappointed at not having a seat at these initial talks in Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think I'm really disappointed in what's happened. I've been watching this for 3 years. It's a war that would have never happened if I was president, and I've been watching these people being killed at levels that you've rarely seen, not even close, since the Second World War. And I'm very disappointed. I hear that, they're upset about not having a seat. Well, they've had a seat for 3 years and a long time before that. This could have been settled very easily. Just a half-baked negotiator could have settled this years ago without the loss of much land, very little land, without the loss of any lives, and without the loss of cities that are just laying on their sides. You have those magnificent golden domes that are shattered, will never be replaced. You can't replace them. 1,000-year-old domes that are so beautiful, you can't replace that. A whole civilization has changed because of what. So when they're worried about not being seated, you mean somebody that should have gone in and made a deal a long time ago? You could have made a deal. This is one that could have made a deal. There was no talk of this during the Trump administration. Putin would have never, ever done it. And by the way, we wouldn't have had October 7th. You know that. We wouldn't have had October 7th.
Another great
Israel,
deal for Trump.
And we wouldn't have had that mess that's going on over there.
He's Mr. Deal Maker.
We have great fire people here. We're putting out fires. All over the world, we're putting out fires. So that wouldn't have happened. And you know what else wouldn't have happened? Inflation. Because it was caused really by the cost of energy going through the roof because of their bad energy policies and also their spending, their terrible spending, wasteful spending on the Green New Scam. It's a scam. It's a whole big scam.
Yeah, that's where the wasteful spending was. Once again.
What would it take for you to reconsider the restrictions on the Associated Press? And secondly, some of your advisors are concerned with the Associated Press's style guide, using language and giving guidance to not use words like illegal immigrant or to use phrases like gender-affirming care. And they're concerned about that being an encroaching amount of liberalism in the way in which the press writes about things. Do you share those concerns?
Well, I do think that some of the phrases that they want to use are ridiculous, and I think, frankly, they become obsolete, especially in the last 3 weeks, because many things have happened in the last 3 weeks. And I didn't know about that, but I would say that if they want to use certain phrases like that, and I guess some are okay, but many aren't, but the Associated Press just refuses to go with what the law is and what is taking place. It's called the Gulf of America now. It's not called the Gulf of Mexico any longer. I have the right to do it, just like we have the right to do Mount McKinley, and nobody's even challenging that. But only the essentially, it's primarily the Associated Press, and I don't know what they're doing, but I just say that we're going to keep them out until such time as the Gulf of America. We're very proud of this country.
It is one of the dumbest, it is one of the stupidest ways to do government censorship, by the way. Just truly one of the stupidest things that has happened in an otherwise incredibly stupid administration, for the record. And the very fact that other members of the media are not freaking out over this, or the very fact that the Mr. Free Speech defenders on the right are not freaking out over this is very telling. Okay?
We're hearing that Russia wants to force Ukraine to hold new elections in order to sign any kind of a peace deal. Is that something that the U.S. would ever support?
Well, we have a situation where we haven't had elections in Ukraine, where we have martial law, essentially martial law in Ukraine.
Yeah, I wonder why. Come on, dude. As critical as I am, come on. I wonder why they didn't have elections in Ukraine.
Blown to smithereens. You got most of the cities are laying on their sides. The buildings are collapsed. It looks like a massive demolition site.
Wow, I can't. No way. They had
so many of the
no way. They had martial law in Ukraine. What happened?
Rockets in there. They've done it.
What happened?
100% if they want.
I wonder what happened in Ukraine that caused them to have martial law.
Absolutely desperate.
Okay. And before people say there were elections during World War II, please, dude, please.
The people have to.
Okay.
The people of Ukraine have to say, like, you know,
Please.
It's been a long time since we've had an election.
It is one of the few instances where it is permissible not to hold elections. Okay. Like, come on. Come on, chatters.
I mean, it's literally, these cities look like Gaza. Actually, many have percentage-wise more buildings knocked down.
Ironically enough, if Donald Trump actually was not a moron and wanted to talk about like the illiberal aspects of Ukraine, he would talk about like banning leftist parties under the auspices of saying that they're pro-Russia. Okay? That on its own, again, is a thing that the American government has also done in times of war, ironically enough. But that is, in my opinion, a greater indication of lack of liberalism, regardless of regardless of the war, the unjustifiable invasion of Ukraine or not. But he doesn't fucking care about that because that would require him to assume a stance that is openly partisan for leftist ideology, I guess. Okay?
He's given $100 billion, and we've given, let's say, 300 plus. And it's more important for them than it is for us. We have an ocean in between, and they don't. But where is all the money that's been given? Where is it going? And nobody, I've never seen an accounting of it. We give hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't see any accounting. So
he's talking about Ukraine like he talks about Hamas. Yeah.
You know why I want?
Because
I don't want all these
he is brutally honest about American foreign policy. American foreign policy literally discards most of our allies, okay?
Where they're from on the whole planet. And I think I have the power to end this war. And I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down. But they chose not to do it that way. And President Biden, in all
Did he
fairness,
just say Ukraine started the war?
He was so bad for this. It was so bad, so pathetic.
Did I misunderstand
So
what he was
sad.
saying? Hold on, I got to
But
run it
with-
back.
That are being killed, and they're running of it. We give hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't see any accounting. So I want to see peace. Look, you know why I want? Because I don't want all these people killed anymore. I'm looking at people that are being killed, and they're Russian and Ukrainian people, but they're people. Doesn't matter where they're from on the whole planet. And I think I have the power to end this war. And I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal.
No, he did. Oh my God. He literally said Ukraine started it? What the fuck? I think he's talking about EU being upset that they hadn't been invited. I mean, he's literally saying you should have never started it. Is he talking about the EU or is he talking about, which by the way, I don't even know if this is like, okay, this is crazy. Oh my God. Bro, this is crazy. What the fuck? Yo, Donald Trump is saying shit that all of my haters think I say all the time. Okay? Like that is the president of the United States of America saying shit that most people online, most liberals online assume is my position on Ukraine. This is an insane thing to state, especially as the president of the United States of America. Like, Ukraine, in this circumstance, is the least responsible party for being invaded. I would go so far as to say that even American interference probably played more of a role than Ukraine in terms of who started it. Okay? The number one responsible party is Russia. Okay? Obviously, they fucking invaded the country. And Ukraine is not even remotely responsible for this. Sorry, that's ridiculous.
I could have made a deal for...
And neither is Europe. Europe just literally listens to the United States of America. What the fuck is this take? That is crazy.
Ukraine, that would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down. But they chose not to do it that way. And President Biden, in all fairness, he doesn't have a clue. What he was so bad for this. He was so bad, so pathetic, so sad. But with all of that being said, look, it is what it is. When I left, there was no chance that this could have happened. But it happened because we had incompetent leadership at many different levels. But when you see what's taken place in Ukraine with millions of people killed, including the soldiers, millions of people killed, a big percentage of their cities knocked down to the ground. I don't know how anybody even lives there. You know, when they say they took a poll and Zelensky's at 4%, who's living there? You know, I mean, people are, it's hard to believe.
This chatter is so funny. If China was working with Mexico to encroach on our borders, we wouldn't invade. Dog, you're saying that right now. Donald Trump is unironically saying that. Like, he hasn't gotten to that part of the equation yet. He just says, oh, he has to tackle the cartel or whatever. But like, yeah, this administration has a lot of appetite for bombing Mexico. Okay. And my answer is no, we shouldn't bomb Mexico, let alone fucking invade it. Are you insane? Hello? What are you saying? That is a psychotic. Why would you come up with a psychotic position that basically is the Trump administration's position and then bring it in here and be like, huh, you think insert psychotic position to the Trump administration? You think you wouldn't be in favor of that? Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be in favor of that, actually. What are you saying? Insane.
That would be a capitulation of some sort. How would you guard against potentially Russia installing a puppet government? And then finally, how would that new election have an impact on getting Zelensky to sign the rare earth minerals deal?
Look, you have leadership, and I like him personally. He's fine. But
not as much as he likes Putin, though. Jesus Christ.
Getting the job done. You have leadership now that's allowed a war to go on that should have never even happened, even without the United States. Look, we had a president who was grossly incompetent. He had no idea what he was doing. He said some very stupid things, like going in for portions and all of the things. He made a lot of bad statements, but he's grossly incompetent, and I think everyone knew that. This is something that should have never happened, would have never happened. And I used to discuss it with Putin. President Putin and I would talk about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye, I will tell you that. But there was never a chance of him going in. And I told him, you better not go in. Don't go in. Don't go in. And he understood that. He understood it fully. But I'm only interested, I want to see if I can save maybe millions of lives. This could even end up in a World War III. I mean, to be honest with you, you've been hearing now Europe is saying, well, I think we're going to go in and we're going to go. All of a sudden, you're going to end up in World War III over something that should have never happened. And, you know, it's a very sad situation. Yeah, please.
In a court filing, the White House said that Elon Musk is not a DOJ employee and has no authority to make decisions. Can you clarify for us today
well, Elon
what his
Musk,
exact role is there?
Yeah. Elon is, to me, a patriot. So, you know, you could call him an employee, you could call him a consultant, you could call him whatever you want. But he's a patriot. I mean, look at the kind of things I just said. Just write it down, just in case that question got asked, right? And which I'm surprised it took so long, actually. But you know what? Ukraine's a bigger deal because people are dying by the thousands a week, thousands. But look at this, from 90 to 99, Social Security, 6,054,000 people. Well, that's okay, maybe that's possible. You know, 90 to 99, maybe it's possible. It's a lot of people, though, at that. But people that live to 100 to 109, 4,734,000. Wow, that's a lot. That means over 100 years old. They're 4 million people. I don't know too many. I know people that are doing great in their 90s, but not too many people over 100. But over 120, from 120 years old, people that are 120 years old up to 129, 3,472,000 people. Wow. You know, that can't possibly be because the record is like, I think it's one person, a woman, lived to 127, but they have 3,472. Okay, but now we're going really in. People from 130
I haven't even gotten
old,
to this part of the broadcast yet, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. This is also incorrect. Once again, lying is so overpowered. Please nerf. Lying OP. Please nerf. This server is busted, okay? Lying is far too OP. Please nerf. Mods!
140 years old and beyond. Now we're really going because we're looking to break the record by 25 years. People from 150 years old to 159 years old. 1,345,000. These are in the. By the way, these are in the computer files. This is what they do well.
The worst part about this is just like the government is run by incompetent morons, okay? And they're just actively lying, and people don't have any critical thinking skills and quite literally just go, that makes sense. Yeah, I hate the government, and my favorite guy is just saying this, and he's saying it in a way that like agrees with my existing biases, so I'm going to believe him. Fuck you.
They're super. I asked Elon, who are these Doge people? He said they're super brilliant computer people and they love the country. It's simple. Wait a minute. People from 160 years old to 169 years, 121,000. So 160-year-old.
I don't think he's actually lying. He actually fucking doesn't know or understand how that works. Yes, but Elon is lying. Like, they're stupid, but they're still lying. They're lying to the American public. Okay? The idea that there are 400 million people currently getting Social Security benefits is wrong. It's just not correct. You are not interpreting the data correctly because you're a fucking idiot. Okay? There's an answer for this. And I will explain to you why this inconsistency is now being presented as what the government is doing.
In 087. But now, let's go into the real numbers. From 200 to 209 years old.
So now you're smarter than Elon Musk?
879 people.
What?
From 210 years old. I haven't met any of them. And if I did, I would bless them. I would worship the ground they walk on.
I'm smart enough to understand.
I'm
smart enough to understand that when a bunch of 19-year-old coders actually come to me and say that there are more people on Social Security payrolls than there are people in the United States of America, I'm smart enough to go, this seems like a false interpretation of the data. Okay? That's just a little bit of critical thinking. Okay? So clearly, I guess in this instance, and just this instance alone, the answer is yes. Okay? That's it. That's it. When someone talks about a person, for example, getting Social Security payments that literally from a time when Social Security as a concept didn't exist, okay? The idea that someone has been getting paid Social Security payments for a longer period of time than the existence of Social Security means that I am looking at the data falsely, okay? I am interpreting the data incorrectly. That's it. Yes, I know it's the programming language. I haven't gotten there yet. The 160-plus-year-old stuff is because the programming language they used, COBOL, which is super old, apparently, the defaults to January 1st, 1950 or something if a date is missing. Yes. There's incomplete data, and it automatically, if there's incomplete data on the dates, it automatically assumes that it's 1875 or something, okay? Or 1850 or something. Yes, I know. I read the Wired article as well. My point is, your haters are going to eat good with that clip. Wait, what? What clip? Haters are going to... I'm done. Okay, if anybody fucking brings up haters and how clips are going to be clipped out of context and people are, people are going to eat good with that clip, I'm just going to start banning you guys for a week. I don't care, man. What are you talking about? What the fuck does that even mean? Please. Jesus Christ, it's so fucking annoying. Stop being cowardly little weirdos about what the haters are going to say. Yes, dude, I get clipped out of context all the fucking time. You know this already, all right? You know this. Move on. Stop fantasizing about what the fucking quote-unquote haters are going to do. Jesus Christ.
Those 800
so annoying.
And 66. From 220 years old to 229 years old, 1,039. And then
90% of the time, it's not even something that is like clippable.
249 years old. One person, and there's one person that's 360 years old. That's just that. And then, where's the money being spent, right? Let's go into that for just a second. $520 million for a consultant on the environment. It's called Environmental Social...
1850 is year zero in the meter convention. Thank you.
In governance, investments in Africa, and mobilize private sector resources $520 million. Somebody got $520 million for an environmental, sounds like an environmental study. I've always been one that paid a lot of money for my environmental studies, but I paid like $50,000, not $520 million. $520 million.
It's 1875, 2025
for
minus
ESG.
1875, 150. Next year there'll be records of 151
$25 million
year olds.
to promote biodiversity, conservation, and promote licit livelihoods by developing socially responsible behavior in the country of Colombia. Well, it's nice. $25 million to go into Colombia for something that nobody ever heard of. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. $40 million. $42 million for Johns Hopkins, great place, to research and drive social and behavior change in Uganda. $42 million. What about us? What about social change in our country? $70 million for a center at Purdue to research university-sourced, evidence-based solutions to developmental challenges. I mean, these are massive numbers on things that nobody ever heard about. $10 million for Mozambique voluntary medical male circumcisions. $10 million for circumcisions in another country. $9.7 million for UC Berkeley to develop a cohort of Cambodian youth with enterprise-driven skills. In other words, let's teach them something about enterprise. What about our people? Can't we teach them about enterprise? $2.3 million for strengthening independent voices in Cambodia. $32 million to the Prague Civil Society Center, which is a very liberal group of people. Wonder how much of that money
These
came
guys
back
are
to the
so,
people that
he's so
approved it.
dumb.
$14 million for
He's so
improving
dumb.
public procurement in Serbia. $486 million.
I wonder what the usage, I wonder what the reasons for why we have these civil society organizations that we are funding. Much to consider here. Maybe because we want to make Serbia woke, I think.
Money, they're one of the highest taxing countries in the
I
world.
wonder if we'll talk about Israel at all in this process, by the way, in terms of
I have
expenditures.
a lot of respect for India. I have a lot of respect for the Prime Minister. He just left, as you know, 2 days ago. But we're giving $21 million for voter turnout. It's voter turnout in India. What about, like, voter turnout here? Oh, we've done that, I guess. We did $500 million, didn't we? It's called the lockboxes. $20 million for fiscal federalism in Nepal. Listen to these numbers. This is all fraud. $19 million for biodiversity conservation in Nepal. $1.5 million for voter confidence. We want to give them confidence in Liberia. $14 million for social cohesion in Mali. $2.5 million for inclusive democracies in South Africa. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well. They're doing a lot better than we do in the schools, aren't they? $2 million to develop sustainable recycling models to increase socioeconomic cohesion among marginalized communities in Kosovo and Ashkali and in Egypt. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. I could, by the way, I could read this all day long. I could go on all day long, and you'll see hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're doing it. But when I saw the Social Security numbers, I said, wow, that's really something. So we have, let's just go above 100 years old. We have millions and millions of people over 100 years old. Everybody knows that's not so. We have a very corrupt country. Very corrupt country, and it's a sad thing to say, but we're figuring it out. Now, the good thing about Social Security and what I read is if you take all of those numbers off, because they're obviously fraudulent or incompetent, but if you take all of those millions of people off Social Security, all of a sudden we have a very powerful Social Security with people that are 80 and 70 and 90, but not 200 years old. You know, so it's a very positive thing. How about over here? Yeah, please. Who resigned? I don't know. I mean, I resigned or got fired. I think got fired. You know, when you fire somebody, they always resign, and then they say, we resigned. But when you have numbers like that, I think really it's got fired. They have to get fired. Who would keep them? How could you have numbers like this? Now, the big thing is, how many of these people got paid? Were they getting paid? Were they getting paid? How many of them were getting paid Social Security? Because if that's the case, it's a massive fraud. We'll have to call those great Palm Beach police into this situation, right? You guys would figure that out very quickly. But how many of them are being paid? I mean, maybe millions of them, but it's a total fraud. Also, a lot of illegal immigrants are in Social Security that shouldn't be there. Yeah, please go ahead.
Mr. President, there was a big wave of probationary federal workers who were fired over the weekend. Some of these workers focused on nuclear weapon security were immediately rehired. Do you have any concerns about how these terminations have
No,
occurred?
not at all. I think we have to just do what we have to do. It's, you know, you're going to, it's amazing what's been found right now. It's amazing. If we feel that in
So
some cases
amazing
they'll fire
what's
people and then
been
they'll put some
found.
people back, not all of them, because a lot of people were let go. Don't forget, I got elected on the basis of making our government stronger and smaller, because we have millions of people that obviously they're paying millions of people that shouldn't be paid, and that has also to do with workers. Yeah, please. No, go ahead. Axios, New York Times.
Sorry. Mr. President, given your concerns about corruption, you said that if there were any conflicts of interest with Elon Musk, you wouldn't let him anywhere near it.
That's right.
Doge and SpaceX employees are now working directly at the Federal Aviation Administration and the Defense Department, agencies that have billions of dollars in contracts with Musk's companies or that directly regulate his companies. How is that not a conflict of interest?
Well, I mean, I'm just hearing about it, and if there is, and he told me before I told him, but obviously I will not let there be any conflict of interest. He's done an amazing job. They've revealed, in fact, he's going to be on tonight, a big show called Sean Hannity at 9 o'clock, and he's on, and I'm on, and we talk about a lot of different things. And any conflicts, I told Elon, any conflicts, you can't have anything to do with that. So anything to do with possibly even space, we won't let Elon partake in that. Yeah, please.
On immigration, sir, you said you would be sending the worst of the worst to Guantanamo Bay. What we're finding out is that there are a lot of low-risk migrants who don't have a criminal background who are also being sent. Are you thinking about this differently now?
No, they're going to be brought back to their countries. And with some persuasion, every one of those countries, everyone in the, as you know, every country is taking the people back. So some of them are going to be brought back to, many of them, any of them that are low risk, as you say, are going to be brought back to their countries. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Can you give us a bit of an update on where you stand with Venezuela?
Yeah,
It's
sure.
real. There's basically a monthly license that can soon
Well, you know, we had Venezuela on the run, and it looked like that was going to be very good. And when Biden came in, as he always does, he screws it up. And they started buying millions and millions and millions of dollars of oil, billions of dollars actually, of oil, and it gave them a new life, a new really lease on life. But we'll see. We had some pretty good discussions with a lot of people within our government, in the United States government, that are involved in that. And Venezuela's a little
No,
bit
you don't
early,
understand. Biden has been the shadow president in perpetuity.
taking the beautiful, as I call it, liquid gold. We have more than anybody. They started paying a fortune to Venezuela, and we're looking at that actually. Why did they do that? Why were they doing that? Why would they go to the enemy and give them billions and billions of dollars? Now, with that being said, as you know, Venezuela has said very strongly they will not take any illegal immigrant, any of the people that they sent over to us. They sent their gangs, probably the worst gang anywhere in the world, as bad as MS-13, maybe worse. And they came out of the jails of Venezuela. They emptied their jails into our country. And they said, we'll never take them back. Well, they took them back, and they're taking them back, and they are taking them back rapidly. They were sending a lot of people to Venezuela. They said they wouldn't take them back, and they are taking back. But we're looking at Venezuela very seriously, and we're going to be able to, don't forget, I've only been here for 3 weeks. Yeah, please.
Just a little clarity on, are you inclined to continue to allow Venezuela, through I think Chevron and other oil companies, to export those petroleum products, or are you
Maybe
trying
not.
to pull back?
Yeah, maybe not. We're looking at that now. I just got here. When I left, they weren't doing anything. They were ready to go. We give up. And then Biden came along and he gave them literally billions of dollars. I couldn't believe it, actually. And we have so much under our feet, liquid gold. We have so much, and it was pretty amazing. So we're looking at that whole situation, why he did it. But how about one more? Yeah, please.
Mr. President, what can you tell us about the CIA drone flights over Mexico? Is this the next step in the war against the cartels?
Well, we're gonna see.
Should they have authority to take legal action?
Mexico's allowed a tremendous number of people to go through their country into ours, and even people coming from Mexico, and illegals, totally illegal. They've allowed people to empty jails into Mexico and then let them come through with this totally ridiculous open border policy of the Biden administration. So millions of people have come in, and hundreds of thousands, and actually millions, are criminals. They came in from jails all over the world. They'd release them into Mexico, and they come into our country. And they also came in from Canada, by the way, large numbers through Canada. In fact, when we closed up the one border, they came in through the other border. So Canada is not an uninterested party. But I will say this. We're dealing with Mexico. I have a very good relationship with Mexico, but I think Mexico is largely run by the cartels, and that's a sad thing to say. And if they wanted help with that, we'd give them help. But Mexico, if you look at what's gone on with Mexico for years now, but now especially, it's run by the cartels. And they've allowed millions of people to come into our country from jails and prisons of other countries from all over the world, not just South America, Africa, Asia, all over. A lot from the Congo in Africa, a lot. They opened their jails. They came in through Mexico. And we have some of the worst criminals coming in from the Congo and other places. So it's not just South America, and it's not just Venezuela, but they open their jails. And you know the crime rates in Venezuela and other places all over the world has gone way down. You know why? Because they've given us their prisoners, they've given us their drug lords and their gang members. And it's hard to believe that we accepted this. It's hard to believe that we allowed open borders, and we're taking in, hundreds of thousands and millions of people coming in from all over the world. They're absolute stone cold.
It's pretty crazy that all of these violent criminals from all around the world are coming to America. And yet, instead of doing crimes, they're actually, unironically, through their presence and their proclivity to do less crime, as opposed to the existing natural-born U.S. population, lowering the crime rate in the United States of America across the board. It's crazy. I guess like when they come to America, they just no longer want to do crimes magically. You know, they're like, oh yeah, well, we got jobs here, so no reason to do crimes. I guess that's what it is. America, truly the nation of rehabilitation. Wonderful stuff. Anyway, yeah, they de-aggro when they come into the American server. I guess we're rehabilitating them. Anyway, Kevin O'Leary, Doge isn't whacking enough with cuts. We're gonna talk about some of these lies from Doge in general. The Doge team is finally posting examples of where they've cut spending. This one claims $8 billion in savings, bottom figure, but if you look at the fine upper print, the contract instead is valued at $8 million. What did they even cut? They cut U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Investigations and Operation Support Dallas, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Equal Employment Opportunity Funding Office. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. Once again, lying is OP. Lying, especially due to incompetence, is doubly OP, because when you are stupid, you don't even realize you're lying, which makes it easier for you to lie. Okay? Because if you're like aware that you're lying, that's going to be kind of difficult. That requires you to at least demonstrate some semblance of skill. When you know what the truth is, okay, it makes it more difficult to lie. If you're stupid and you're lying, you can believe the lie. Okay? You can believe the false information. Anyway, here's a momentum chaser that we were going to look at. After several delays, Doge has finally posted its purported savings. Why did it take so long to create a simple web page with a 1,000-row table? Who knows? Let's dig in. Headline number, $55 billion saved. They list the savings per next contract. This should be easy to verify then. First thing I did is add up the saved column for all canceled contracts and real estate. The numbers are $16.5 billion and $0.14 billion, respectively. Odd. Since almost all the purported savings come from contracts, we'll focus on that. Single biggest ticket item is a DHS contract listed at saving $8 billion. Wow, that's a huge contract. Actually, no, it's $8 million. They must have tried to automate scraping the FPDS form and failed. That means we're down to $8.5 billion in savings. So they claim $16 billion in savings, okay? And it turns out it's not. It's just, I guess, across the board, $8 billion. Boom. Half of it is gone. The next three biggest ticket items are all USAID contracts listed at $655 million each, so $2 billion total. Wow, pretty big. Wait, these are IDVs, not contracts. $655 million is the entire set aside, being triple counted. In the first 5 years, only $73 million was awarded. Only 2 years remain. That's the other side of the story. They were like, oh, the CFPB. The CFPB's entire budget allocation is $1 billion. But how much of that $1 billion budget has the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, utilized so far? $200 million, which means they haven't used $700 million of their budget yet, more than $700 million. When you cut the CFPB, the saving is not $1 billion in that regard. It's also really stupid because the CFPB obviously has returned more than $20 billion back to the consumers with a mere $200 million of expenditure. Okay? Claim 55 billion, show 16 billion, actually 8 billion if you lose your eyes on the biggest thing. No, it's going to get worse than that. So we're down to 6.5 billion in savings, and an alarming trend emerges. Doge does not seem to understand how the government contracts they are canceling work. The savings they are claiming are not annual savings, but rather hypothetical savings if we spend every unobligated penny. And more importantly, they are just getting it wrong. With alarming consistency, these numbers are erroneous. This select group of geniuses has not double-checked even the largest items accounting for the bulk of their claimed savings. This is a sad, pathetic farce. Here's the next biggest item. An IT services contract for the Social Security Administration worth $1 billion. That's a lot of savings. Well, again, this contract spans 6 years. 80% has already been spent. Well, more like $240 million in savings spread over the next 3 years. $80 million a year. That's assuming it's not deliberate. No, I think you guys are attributing malice to how unimaginably incompetent these people are. I don't think that I think that the negligence is malicious. Certainly, like their lack of care is due to malice, but you have to understand that they are legitimately stupid. Okay? This is not to abdicate them of responsibility or morality. Because the end result is still the same. People getting fired, people being misinformed. But it 100% is also incompetence. Okay? Incompetence is, in my opinion, playing a major role here. This is kind of like here, I'll give you an example of Israel. Okay? Israel's operations inside of the Gaza Strip. There is a breakdown of command with respect to appropriate kill targets in the Gaza Strip. But that chaos and that disorder is actually deliberate. Okay? That chaos and disorder is deliberate because what they want to do is create killing fields. And if you were to actually try to directly tell people to go out and engage in killing fields, well, then you don't have plausible deniability. So a lot of Israeli operations always look very incompetent, like when they've shot the convoy of the World Central Kitchen aid workers, right? But the real reason why that happened is because there is a breakdown in command that is deliberate, because they have corridors where they engage in mass killing. It doesn't matter. Because the overarching goal of the entire government's military operation there is to engage in as much killing as possible. Okay? They are weaponizing incompetence. It kind of goes along with what I was saying earlier. It's easier to lie if you are too stupid to understand that you're lying. It's easier to lie if you're too stupid to recognize that the information you're working with is incorrect. Okay? The difference here, however, is that they have no interest in correcting the record. Okay? Like, this isn't like a, oopsie, we got this wrong, but we'll fix it. It's more so, oopsie, we got this wrong. Everyone is yelling at us, but what the fuck are they going to do about it? Because the outcome is still the same. Do you understand what I mean here? It's not necessarily that, like, this is being done because they're deliberately going, ooh, let's just add an extra 0 to this contract to make it seem like we actually eliminated so much more of the debt than we actually did, right? They're not doing this in that vein, I guess. And so many less people will hear about the mistake portion of it. Yeah, partially because of how information echo chambers work nowadays online, especially with like the blossoming revolution of independent media. There are a million different outlets where you can get opinions that you want to hear masquerading as the truth. Okay? It creates additional permission cycles for false information to present itself as the reality. It creates an environment where people turn around and go, well, these guys are independent content creators. This guy's not even a political commentator at all. And he's also saying how great it is that the government is actually reducing so much of this like ridiculous expenditure that they were spending on, I don't know, gay autism research or whatever, or gay autism vaccination initiatives or whatever. And then every single day, we just move further and further away from the truth. In 2023, this contract funded 1,000 FTEs working $100 an hour. Did we need 1,000 SWEs working on SSA infrastructure? Probably not. These could be valid savings. Disclaimer, no idea what they actually did. But worth noting that these cuts will impact many private sector jobs as well. SWEs, not SVs. And if anyone is curious, there are currently 17 lines that say CFPDS rather than the savings amount. I guess because their automated scraping failed. I did it manually and it took roughly 10 minutes, but that's too much of an ask for super geniuses working 120 hours a week. If you look at the website, there's a toggle between contract value and savings, and so many of the savings line items are $0. A quote tweet in regard to the employee at Social Security. I went and looked at the publicly available contractual documents, probably closer to 2K employees in various roles. The contract sounds like it's the entire information technology department for the Social Security Administration. This will absolutely be a lawsuit. Motherfuckers are too dumb to understand government fund accounting. There's a reason it's a special topic in the accounting field, much like medical and construction accounting are. Yes. This is yet another instance where, like, there is a very deliberate, very real reason why there's highly specialized fields here. Because most people don't understand the data that they're looking at. Now, this person is not a government accountant, as far as I understand. You know, he's just some random guy. Right? And even some random guy can call out a bunch of these inconsistencies. Why are we pretending they care to be accurate? They're not. That's my point. They're not pretending to be accurate. They don't care. They're not even trying to pretend to be accurate. They're just throwing numbers out, knowing full well that knowing full well that there is no way to counter this kind of misinformation. Okay? That's simply it. There are very few outlets that are like actively trying to correct the record. And even then, it is very difficult. It is very difficult for them to do that because this is an unlimited faucet. Okay? It's an unlimited faucet of misinformation, like Twitter, for example. What's weird about the situation is that, yes, of course, is there a lot of bloat in the federal government? Obviously. I mean, look at the fucking DOD. Jesus Christ. Having said that, however, every competent Democrat should currently be matching up the FAA layoffs and the linking up with like the unions involved in every part of air travel to constantly say, look at all the planes that are falling out of the sky. Do you really want less people working on your safety? Every Democrat should be saying this. Okay? Every Democrat should be saying this and constantly pairing up the Republican agenda of austerity with death and destruction. Okay? They should be doing that. This would be effective communication. Okay? This would be effective communication. I'm banning this guy that said this guy is just unbelievable and the press just lets him lie. Partially because I don't even know if he's talking about Elon Musk, even though the account was created 26 minutes ago and he's been following since 14 minutes ago. So it's most likely a bot account and he's talking about me. But it's pretty funny for him to say this. So I look forward to more brilliant takes from that guy. I'm a sniper. Looking from Eastern Europe, while I know what is happening in the US, but here in the East, this was all the talk. Austerity, pulling ourselves from our bootstraps, etc. And some of that bloat is necessary because you can't hyper-optimize the government. Shit happens. Healthcare is the biggest one that comes to mind. You let them off the hook when you chalk it to incompetence. It is deliberate. No, it is weaponized incompetence, okay? I'm just simply stating what I think is the truth. And the reason why I'm saying that is because they're not particularly brilliant, okay? They're not. These guys aren't like brilliant geniuses who are like, ooh, let's just lie deliberately. No, I think a lot of this can be explained with them trying to scrape the data and doing a piss poor job at it, okay? What is this? Oh, Polygon. Twitch's Hassan Piker wants fellow listeners to know having fun isn't bourgeois decadence. A new book excerpt from Stream Big dives deep into Twitch's top stars. Is everyone overpaying for certain social services? Yes. Is the social service thus effectively useless? No. Austerity that we force upon the third world countries ruin them on so many economic parameters, and that is by design to keep them in servitude through debt. Nathan Grayson's new book is coming out, and there's an excerpt of me in the book. And I think that's why he wrote for Polygon on this article. But we'll get to that as well. That's not one puff piece, but now two puff pieces in a row. Puff pieces in a row. Courts are not going to save us. For some reason, it went to the judge who saved Trump too. Just in, Judge Tanya Chutkan denies a request for temporary restraining order, TRO, which would block Elon Musk's access to certain government systems and limit Doge's capabilities and make changes in reducing government spending. Chutkan writes, plaintiffs have not carried their burden of showing that they will suffer imminent irreparable harm absent a temporary restraining order. Therefore, plaintiff's motion is denied. 14 states represented by their attorney general have filed an emergency motion for a temporary restraining order against Elon Musk, the U.S. Department of Government Efficiency Doge Service, U.S. Doge Service Temporary Organization, and President Trump. The emergency motion, based on the parties' briefing, oral argument, and the current record, the court finds the plaintiffs have not carried their burden of showing they will suffer imminent irreparable harm absent a temporary restraining order. Judge Chutkan goes on to say that the possibility that defendants may take action that irreparably harm plaintiffs is not enough. What is imminent irreparable harm if not losing your job? It goes even beyond that. It's imminent irreparable harm that people will lose their jobs for no reason. Okay, so there is plenty of imminent irreparable harm. But of course, it doesn't matter at the end of the day because guess what? Judge decided, nobody cares. On the record before, the court cannot conclude that plaintiffs satisfy the high standard for irreparable injury. By the way, there was no standing for the court case that made its way all the way to the Supreme Court when the conversation was around Joe Biden abolishing student loan debt. There was no standing for that, okay? And yet, seemingly enough, it made its way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court actually favored the people that brought the court the decision to begin with, or allowed the Supreme Court to make this decision to begin with. Yeah, no standing, but it didn't matter. They still stopped the Biden administration from doing something that is within his powers, okay? Which was to permanently throw to the future all matter of student loan debt, engaging in universal student loan debt relief. Do you love the Supreme Court? No, I do not. One was a private student loan debt collector that wanted the loan forgiveness. Yeah, there was no standing because they actually sidestepped the actual harmed parties. The Supreme Court does this all the time. They don't care. In terms of like not having standing doesn't stop them from taking on certain court cases. They will overlook that fact, or they'll act like there is standing. It's ultimately a political decision, is my point. It's never a decision truly born out of a real legal disagreement. There's some copium out there about the judge just being pedantic about the legal standards between a TRO and a preliminary injunction, that she might rule in favor of a preliminary injunction after more discovery. Yeah. Chutkan wrote that if she were considering the merits, Musk's position likely violates the appointments clause. These people believe in formal legal rules, so I wouldn't read too much into the denial of the TRO. Okay, well, I don't know enough about Judge Tanya Chutkan's background. Okay, I think that would be more instructive in terms of what her look, what is more instructive for you to understand, like how a certain judge will decide. If you want to truly understand like what's more instructive, look to who appointed them or what their allegiances are. So if they're an Obama appointee, then it's not copium. Then there might be a separate case. If they are even a Trump appointee, sometimes they still think certain Trump administration decisions are a bridge too far. What is a TRO? A temporary restraining order. To me, this reads like a district court judge that doesn't want to be successfully appealed on a record that wouldn't be shaky to grant a TRO. Nominative determination. Her name is Chutkan, RIP. Okay, fair. The court in the past 3 years literally said the situation you brought forth didn't actually happen, but just in case it did, we rule in the favor of the Republicans. It was insane. Yeah. There are instances like with the abortion, with the contraceptive ban, like the contraceptive trafficking ban, that literally had no standing because there were no victims. Okay? It was a hypothetical victimhood that allowed them to take on this case. It's fucking ridiculous. Okay? Like, that's ridiculous. They just made it up. And they've done it before too. But it's extra crazy because like this instance does have immediate harm. Yeah, the 303 creative wedding website case. That was another one that's famous as well for that. Anyway, it was like the lady. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. It was like the lady that made a website for a gay couple, but it was actually she never did. But the Supreme Court still took on the case. This isn't standing. It's irreparable harm. Can't be remedied by compensation later. No, doesn't this mean that there's no... Maybe I'm misunderstanding it. I'm not the biggest. I'm not the best at... Is there a difference between this two? Like saying that plaintiffs do not carry the burden of showing that they will suffer imminent irreparable harm absent a temporary restraining order. Is there a difference between that versus like what it means when they say that there is no standing? Call Lolo. I can't call him right now. Please stop. I am no big city lawyer. I thought that's what standing implied. Standing is different. I'm a lawyer. Okay, thank you for all of the... I watched 9 seasons of Suits. Hold on, let me get my glasses. It's a higher burden of proof, not whether they can bring a case or not. Standing is being able to bring the suit in the first place. Yes, but in terms of standing, like when they make an argument as to why this should be brought forth to the courts, the argument needs to prove that there is irreparable or immediate harm, right? Like, isn't that the same exact argument? The harm for standing doesn't have to be imminent and it's a lower standard is what you're saying. Or not a lower standard, just a different standing. You need injury in fact, causation, and remedy. I haven't read this complaint, but maybe it's an element to bring the suit. Temporary restraining order has a higher standard. The immediate / irreparable harm is the standard for a temporary restraining order. Am a lawyer. No, it's different. A TRO would stop the offending action. Judges saying that anything done without the TRO would be able to be fixed afterwards. They aren't in danger of permanent harm. But wouldn't there be enough if people are about to get fired unjustly? Wouldn't that be permanent harm? Is this because it was the states that brought it? But it's identical to the instance where right-wing attorney generals brought forth the fucking student loan debt relief case. No? You can always back pay technically, no perma harm. They can get reimbursed for lost wages. The imminency, irreparability of the harm is what makes it more technically. It's not the same as bringing the case to trial, but instead enjoining them from acting. Then you'd be able to do a TRO for any merger or layoff. I mean, shouldn't you be able to do a temporary restraining order if there was like a completely ridiculous layoff happening? Like, wouldn't a union be able to do a temporary restraining order? I guess not. Monetary harm is usually the standard, except in criminal cases. The plaintiffs have standing to bring the suit. If they didn't, the judge would have thrown out the case. It got rejected because they failed to meet the burden of proof for a temporary restraining order. These are all pretrial motions that are asking for court action before the case has been heard, so the burden of proving irreparable harm is very high. Oh, got it. Okay. All right. We're moving on from this. We're getting back to areas that are within the realm of my knowledge, okay? We're going to talk about Russia and Ukraine as well, but before we get to Russia and Ukraine, there's a couple other things I wanted to talk about with this Doge shit. But so we're going, unfortunately for all of you, back to Scott Jennings.
An agency that doesn't have a bloat of administrative personnel that we could probably do without. And I think that's why a lot of voters are happy that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are finally going through the federal government and trying to take out some of this bureaucracy that we probably just don't need. So I'm reading to you what Sean Duffy says. He's the Secretary of the Transportation. I have no reason to doubt his numbers.
Karen, when you hear this, I mean,
yeah, he knows best. Scientists, woke and gay. They don't know best when they're talking about their specific field of research. Sean Duffy, television personality, well, he's the transportation secretary, so he knows best. Okay? Yeah. Pete Hegseth, well, guess what? He's leading the DOD. I don't see you leading the DOD. He's not a DEI candidate. He's a DUI candidate. Okay? That's right. He knows best.
Look, Americans are concerned about bloat in the federal government. They have been for a very long time. What do you make of how it's...
So the concern that and I think a lot of Americans have, we can all agree there's bloat. We can all agree that we need to deal with that. At the same time, what we're seeing is speed for the sake of creating momentum, to create a sense of things are happening. At the same time, look what happened Friday. We had nuclear scientists fired, and then they said, oops, we need those people because they have a technical skill that nobody else has. So the problem that I have with the way they're doing it is, and I went to the DOJ website to see if they would say anything about, look, we are conducting this process to make sure we don't harm American safety, their health, or take money out of their wallets. They don't say that. And we're finding out the consequences and the impact of some of these things. If you're a doctor for the VA in the Midwest and you're told you're going to be...
This is a problem born out of not having any principled leftists on any number of different mainstream outlets. Okay? Stand. The automatic position of the most quote unquote like anti-Trump liberal on the panel should not be that it's definitely for the greater good that we're engaging in mass layoffs in the federal government. Okay? You shouldn't be playing catch up. Your first position should be that there is no reason to engage in layoffs at a time when we should probably be hiring more people, okay? But because their underlying worldview is unfortunately so similar to the Republican worldview in terms of maximizing efficiency, okay? They start the position by saying, no, there is actually reason to like fire a bunch of government employees. They're just not doing it right, and they're firing the wrong people. No, that's not what you're supposed to say. You're supposed to say, what the fuck are you doing? We need more people working, not less, okay? That should be your starting position. And then you work your way up to that argument, which is that, and here is why it's really stupid when you engage in these sorts of idiotic layoffs, because obviously you're eliminating a bunch of positions that were eliminating the positions of a bunch of government employees that were working on really important things, okay? That's why it was so frustrating for me when I saw Ro Khanna start off by being like, well, Bill Clinton did a fantastic job eliminating 400,000 federal government employees, but he did it by working with Congress. It's like, that's not, like, why are you presenting that as a good thing? Don't you realize that the underlying ideology there, the underlying premise that you're operating off of is that it is a good thing to fire government employees? How is this in any way, shape, or form an adequate counterbalance to the Republican neoliberalism? This is why I say, and many others say correctly, that the Democrats are also neoliberal.
Fired, or you're waiting for this, court to play out. What are you supposed to do with your client the veteran who's got PTSD? Are you trying to find them someone else to go see because you're not sure if you're going to be there in 2 weeks? Or are you assuming you'll be spared because someone will figure out that it's probably not smart to get rid of doctors who are at the VA who may be working on a critical function? So that's the concern. I think this could have been done with a lot more thoughtfulness about how do we protect people's safety, even if you said, look, we're going to take 2 weeks at each agency and try to do some kind of rubric to make an assessment, not putting it into an AI system, by the way, which is some of what we've read that they've done. And I think what we're going to find is a number of these oops moments that could be dangerous.
I just think they need to read the...
Don't you only fire government employees when your economy's in the shit and you're producing as much as you should? Sure, it will work in Argentina, but why is it being done in the U.S. with very competent workers? First of all, it's also not good in Argentina either. I don't think it's good in Argentina either. I don't think austerity is a good thing. It's definitely not a good thing. If it was a good thing, we wouldn't enforce it upon the entirety of the global South. It's just wild because now we're accelerating it to our and doing it to ourselves. We've always, one might say, Republicans have always engaged in this sort of thing, but never to this degree.
I mean, there have been 3 major plane crashes in just, less than a month. One of them was just a few blocks from the high school I went to in Northeast Philadelphia. And, tell that to the little boy with the metal in his head, trying to protect his sister during that plane crash. I think that not only do you have to protect the safety of Americans physically, but I think you have to protect our safety mentally. We see you laying off people from the FAA. At this point, nobody at the FAA is dispensable. I think you have to keep everybody there at least, for the time being, because we've had these major plane crashes that you haven't seen in 16 years.
Kevin, the optics of this is what you're referring to.
I think the issue is they're not whacking enough. There's this concept in private equity when you get a bankrupt.
God, I mean, how can people look at this guy and not see him as anything but a fucking villain, dude? First of all, you're Canadian. Excuse me, ICE, this bald fuck right here, okay? What is his productive output on U.S. soil? You know what I mean? Get this guy out of here. Pack him up. What the hell is this? Send his ass back to Canada. Ugh. Yeah, I'm going to Laken Riley act his ass. I'm going to be like, I saw him stealing a bag of Skittles. Deport him, please. Yeah. I saw him getting in a boat again. Arrest him, officers. You know what he has done in boats in the past. And this time his wife wasn't even in the boat. So he got no one else to blame this time, okay? Same guy.
Wealth, this is according to Oxfam, of the world's 85 richest people is equal to the 3.5 billion poorest people.
It's fantastic. And this is a great thing because it inspires everybody, gets the motivation to look up to the 1% and say, I want to become one of those people.
Yeah, dude. I'm a child born in Rwanda, okay, with a genetic disorder. I can't wait to look up to the 1% and feel the aspirational goals. I'm feeling my bootstraps right now. I can't see with my eyes. I'm feeling with my hands the bootstraps that I will be tugging on. Fantastic. Psychopath, dude.
Well, I'm going to fight hard to get up to the top. This is fantastic news.
Yeah, low key, think he's helping with the cause with shit like this? Let him cook? No, dude. You want to know why? I used to think that too. But these past couple of years, like especially with Elon Musk getting a prominent position in the government, has caused me to realize that no, actually people don't realize how fucking stupid these dudes are. They don't realize how evil these dudes are. They just genuinely think it's God ordained. and they deserve the position that they have in society. I'm not even kidding. Like poor hogs love this shit, dude. They love this shit. Americans are incredibly servile. Absolutely. Absolutely, dude. Oh my God. They cannot imagine looking at a guy like this and thinking that's a villain. That's an evil villain. He's doing evil villain talk right now.
News, and of course I applaud it. What can be wrong with this?
Really?
Yes, really.
So somebody living on
I celebrate capitalism.
$1 a day in Africa is getting up in the morning and saying, I'm going to be Bill Gates.
That's the motivation
Only
everybody
thing
needs
between
to have.
She's right. She should cook his ass. Damn, look at the CBC, bro. Yeah. Someone living on $1 a day in Africa is gonna look up to Bill Gates and be like, "Thank God, one day, me too." Only thing you hear that? Hey guys, if you live in the global South and your government has been destabilized actively or propped up by the Western forces, okay, and you're working in horrifying conditions every day, you just didn't aspire hard enough. You don't have that Sigma grind set, dude.
Motivation, I just need to pull up my socks. I don't have socks.
Look, don't tell me that you want to redistribute wealth again. That's never going to happen. Okay?
You know what? You take a simple stat like this, which is neither good nor bad. It's just a fact.
It's a celebratory stat. I'm very excited about it. I'm wonderful to see it happen. I tell kids every day,
bro, this is literally like, if we did not have an entirely captive, entirely servile population, this is basically the same as the let them eat cake. Okay, this is a let them eat cake statement, straight up. And don't come in here and tell me, actually that quote is incorrect or whatever, okay? It serves the same purpose, okay? It serves the same goddamn purpose. He literally said, by the way, the 3.5 billion people living in poverty, like the top however many people have as much wealth as the bottom 3.5 billion, that number has worsened. Or if you're Kevin O'Leary, it's gotten way more fantastic, okay? Mr. Fantastic. Just so you understand, wealth has consolidated in the hands of even less people now. I think the last Oxfam number is something like the top 3 people have as much money as the bottom 50%. It's no longer even 85 people. It's now like 3. Asking my landlord to raise my rent to motivate me to grind more next month. Yeah, Sigma grind set, baby.
I'm just gonna.
What's wrong with
comes
this?
up at a cocktail party.
No, Amanda. What's wrong with this statement?
One possible response
if you work hard, you might be stinking rich.
We're talking about people in extreme abject poverty.
Correct. 3 richest dudes in the U.S. have more money than the bottom 50%. Oh my God.
That's how you get $3.5 billion.
No, we're not. You were just talking about really rich people.
No.
Oh my God, I hate this person so much. I have so much disdain in my heart for him and just all of these guys.
Company, and you go in there, you cut 20% more than your initial read. And then you find like a pool of mercury, the organization gels back together again.
You hear stuff like this, you don't, be honest. You hear this fucking douchebag, okay, say stuff like that, and you don't even for a moment think imagine if there was a competent government that just sent him to the countryside for a little bit to toil the land. Really? You don't think that? You're lying if you don't think that. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that's the best possible way to go about it. Okay? Many different methods exist. Seizing his assets. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, that's funny. That's cool, man. Oh, you think poor people deserve less? You think it's awesome that hundreds of thousands of federal government employees are about to be, hi, are you still pro-terrorism? Hi, checking in here. Are you still pro-terrorism? That's so funny. Don't ban this guy. Anyway, it's extra funny because I was in the process of talking about like sending this guy to the countryside and this dude is like, hi, are you still pro-terrorism? Anyway, it's rehabilitation, okay? It's rehabilitation. That's what I'm an advocate for. Expropriate is the most beautiful word in the English language. Maoist Trump, JD Pondon. Tariffs. Tariffs are no longer the most beautiful word in the English language, believe me. It's expropriation. There can be no end to exploitation of the American working class without expropriation. Anyway.
Always cut deeper, harder when there's fat and waste.
If that's the case, why don't we take away all your wealth and then make you start from square one again? I mean, after all, you've done it once, you can do it again, right? And also, it's super simple, right? It'll make you grind harder, Kevin. I think that's what we should do. We should hit a reset real quick, you know? Dude, think about how much motivation he will have if he has nothing, okay? The less you have, the more aspirational you are. Get back in the grind, dog. You should be excited. Oh.
FAA, it's not the people. The code is cobalt. It's from the 60s. It needs CapEx put into it for the technology to be upgraded to make it safer. Fat, like a chicken. All of these agencies are like big fat chickens dripping over barbecues of fat. This is the best barbecue I've ever seen, but I don't think it's happening fast enough. They're not cutting enough. Keep slashing,
cobalt.
Keep hacking while you have it.
Yeah, the new old coding system, cobalt.
24-month mandate before the
At least he got close enough, dude. I don't even think Elon knows what that is, okay? For the record. At least he got close enough to saying sounding it out almost correctly. Close enough, okay? I know it's COBOL. All I'm stating is Elon doesn't even know what that is. That's how low the fucking standards are.
Terms. Cut. More cutting. Believe me, it's going to work out just great. Everybody should be happy.
Even people with the nuclear codes, cut them too.
Cut everything. Because if you don't see what they're doing and they can't show you that they're adding value, you whack.
But it's not clear that they're even asking people to show us what you're doing. Again, this was a story Friday, and literally Elon said, oops, we gotta rehire them because nobody knows how to do what these people know how to do.
Yeah, the nuclear thing, okay, gets it wrong once in a while, big deal, so what?
I agree with that.
That's 10% of the time.
It's okay. I actually think it's okay if they run into a stumble here or there because the project is so massive. The need to cut is so massive. The government is so massive. It's inconceivable that you wouldn't make a mistake here or there. But I think that's acceptable if the greater goal is achieved, which is a smaller government, more efficient government. Trim the fat.
Even if someone dies, or even if someone, because
are
we're
you
talking
alleging
about,
that someone has died from this?
We don't know. I'm talking about when the rubber meets the road. I'm talking about, for example, Kansas City. 30,000 government employees might be laid off. It will destroy the economy of Kansas City. That's okay.
Why do you say that?
Because I'm reading what the individuals from Kansas City have been saying, that they're very concerned.
What do you think they're going to say when they're going to get whacked?
Of course they're going to say that. But my point is, do we think that's smart to live in an American city just go under?
How many American cities need a massively oversized federal government to stay afloat? I mean, isn't that says more about the city than the government?
But when did we get to the point where presidents are measuring themselves by how many people they put out of work instead of how many people they get jobs
for? Not a moment too soon.
Yeah,
this
is crazy.
This is absolutely because the government only ever gets bigger.
Yeah, of course. Oh, God, I hate this. I hate this so much because under normal circumstances, everyone should understand the position that he is advocating for, which is mass layoffs. He doesn't have to care about it because his job relies on him being careless about that sort of thing. He probably doesn't have any immediate family members that will be impacted by this. Okay? This is at the heart of so much of the conservative commentary, just being a smug, out-of-touch asshole. Incredibly frustrating. Incredibly frustrating.
Chickens, hopefully they lay some eggs and maybe then we can afford it.
This strikes me as something that was done just for the sake of doing. And I think
I already talked about this before with Alabama, the state of Alabama. In the state of Alabama, the University of Alabama is the second largest hiring body in the entire state. Okay, public sector jobs that'll be lost in that process. Okay, they rely on those grants. Cut those grants, you have to cut those jobs. A lot of those people that are being cut on the overhead side are going to not necessarily be woke and gay college professors or whatever, even though that's also ridiculous, right? To cut those jobs is also ridiculous. But they are going to be, you know, janitorial staff and things like that. Okay.
It was a tone-deaf move. It wasn't a big enough cut to do anything. It was a completely tone-deaf move. I mean, I find people are always interested in efficiency as long as it doesn't affect them. And it's strange to me that we got enough people to go and ride around the racetrack.
Yeah, that's not just the case in Alabama. It's almost every state public sector is a top employer.
Behind the presidential limousine and such, and to guard 3 residences. And we're never cutting people from there. But to come now and make sort of a tone-deaf move to cut the FAA is, again, this is an image thing, and they want to be seen as doing something.
Now to President Trump and Elon Musk's latest moves to reshape the federal government. The top Social Security official stepped down after Musk's team requested access to sensitive personal data about millions of Americans. Senior political correspondent Rachel Scott is tracking it from Mar-a-Lago. Good morning, Rachel.
George, good morning to you. And this is just the latest official to leave after clashing with Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency. And it comes as federal workers are bracing for more layoffs and firings today.
Elon Musk has got to go.
Overnight, protests popping up in cities across the country.
Where is Congress?
Hundreds demonstrating against President Trump and Elon Musk as they push forward with changes to shrink the size of the federal government. ABC News learning the top Social Security official has stepped down after clashing with the Department of Government Efficiency over access to the sensitive personal information of millions of Americans, including financial data.
I can't, what I'm about to say, I mean with all sincerity, okay? I would rather have foreign adversaries have access to my sensitive information than this guy, okay? Like, I'd rather have the CCP have access to this information than Elon Musk. That is how little I trust Elon Musk, okay? The fact that he is going to have access to, like, Social Security data and information, like Social Security numbers, is so insane. What's, I guess, the most shocking aspect of this is that he also looks like a villain. He sounds like a villain. He is a billionaire who engages in space travel and also has a brain chipping operation. And so many people are just like, nah, that's my king. That's my God king. It's great. I want him to have access to all matter of information. I would love to use his credit card payment system that he will inevitably create off of all of this data that he probably will keep certainly secure. Like, he unironically does everything that people think Bill Gates is doing and hate Bill Gates for. There are plenty of good reasons to hate Bill Gates. People hate Bill Gates because of the things that they think Bill Gates is doing that Elon Musk is actually doing. But those very same people love Elon Musk. Make this make sense.
And employment information.
President Trump has directed Elon Musk and the Doge team to identify fraud at the Social Security Administration.
Musk's team has also requested access to a data system at the IRS that retains Americans' personal tax information and includes their tax filings and bank statements. Democrats pushing back.
If you think there's fraud, then why did you fire all the inspector generals, okay? If you think there's something we can do here, then let's do this the right way.
Across the federal government, firings touching more than a dozen agencies, from the CDC to Veterans Affairs, and even the Federal Aviation Administration. At the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the union warning they expect a 50% cut to the workforce by May. Sources tell us 15,000 workers at the IRS have been identified for possible termination, with tax season just around the corner. Victoria tells us she was laid off from the Forest Service in Montana.
Elon Musk doesn't even know my job exists, right? But like, we do a lot. I mean, I'm a public servant and I do this job because I love it. So yeah, I'm devastated, and my whole community lost their jobs, and I don't know what I'm going to do now.
Other government workers like Elizabeth Anaskevich, who works for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, says she doesn't even have enough information to file for unemployment.
We were just basically tossed out on the streets, and so that has been.
I'm calling it. Joe Rogan is going to say that he'd love for Elon to have access to his bank account because he knows money. Oh, God. We are progressively getting dumber and dumber, dude.
Been angering and heartbreaking. And our pay stopped the day we got the termination letter. So we're all without a paycheck as of Tuesday.
I really did not think that people would be like this open to, you know how like everyone was angry about AI possibly cutting jobs and stuff? Like there was a decent amount of people, you know, that's why Andrew Yang got any motion whatsoever. Okay, so the difference is like instead of AI, it's a bot cutting the jobs, a South African bot cutting the jobs. But as long as he says the right things, you're like, hell yeah, brother, that's good. So when does the economy crash after firing all these workers? Because that's kind of inevitable to firing hundreds of thousands from the well-paying public sector work. We already have a massive underemployment crisis in this country where everyone basically has to do gig economy work and barely make ends meet, or even do gig economy work on top of the existing jobs that they have. Okay. And in spite of all of that, the last remaining like middle class jobs that are readily available with like decent benefits that still don't pay a lot, mind you, are going away. America is just going to be a collection of, you know, maximum 100,000 millionaires and billionaires. And then everyone else in the country is going to be straight up the underclass, the permanent underclass.
So the administration has not provided any clarity on just how many federal workers have been let go, but they did give every single federal agency a deadline of today to let go of any probationary workers. George.
And Rachel, the president has made a controversial pick to be the top federal prosecutor in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, this is an important role, and the president has nominated Ed Martin. Martin has pushed false claims about the 2020 election. He defended January 6 rioters in court, and then he ultimately, in his interim role, helped dismiss those cases and fire the prosecutors who brought those charges. He will have to be confirmed by the U.S. Senate to keep that role permanently, George.
Hey, Rachel, thanks very much.
It wasn't long ago. Top Democrats, people that you know.
Yeah, this was Caroline Leavitt. Here, this is the summary of it. Trying to do damage control because as soon as Elon Musk started talking about Social Security, which we covered extensively earlier, right? Saying that he's going to engage in some cuts. Obviously, Fox News, which is an audience comprised of, 800-year-old people who obviously don't want their Social Security to be cut, freaked out. So immediately Trump had to send Caroline Leavitt on there to be like, no, we're not touching Social Security, I promise. So let's take a look at what this brown noser has to say.
We're advocating for Donald Trump's very plan. Take a listen.
This report tells us how to cut waste, cut red tape, streamline the bureaucracy, change procurement rules.
Oh, God, I hate this so much. Oh, my God. Hey, what now? What now, liberals? You understand? This is what happens when you engage in any sort of right-wing initiative. Okay? This is what you get. This is what you get. They use the shit that you did back in the day against you.
Change the personnel rules and create a government that works better and costs less.
By paying for these plans first with cuts in government waste and efficiency, second, with cuts, not gimmicks, in government spending.
We'll prove that we can spend the money we have in an appropriate way and stop wasting so much of it.
But over the next several months, we will be looking at every other agency and program, asking the direct question, do we really need this agency? Do we really need this program?
20 years into a period in our history where most American wage earners are working longer work weeks for stagnant wages. It is outrageous for the government to have rules and regulations which take those people's money from them and spend it on things that cannot be justified.
One of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we...
Wow, I love this. Clip Farm from 1993. It's not even a clip farm. They did do this, and they did advocate for this. It almost feels like neoliberalism and austerity is bipartisan. Oh, my God. It almost feels like exactly what I say all the time in terms of what I hate about liberals is true. Obama also said that cutting the DOE is a terrible mistake. I know it's gotten worse over time, but if your fundamental principles are aligned with the opposing party, then you still take initiatives in that same vein, in the same direction. What does austerity mean, streamer man? Austerity is belt tightening, okay? Fiscal responsibility, cutting social safety nets, cutting expenditures, cutting government spending, things that the Democrats have also done. A theory stream? Wait, austerity has nothing to do with theory. It's a pretty basic it's a word in the English language and a pretty basic concept. Isn't it not that black and white, though? What Dem cut is different than what Republicans cut? No, across the board, I do not maintain a position that federal worker cuts are good, okay? I don't think it's a good thing. It's a bad thing. These guys, do you think, let me ask you this way, okay? Do you think that these guys, when they were pledging to cut government waste, okay, when they were saying that, do you think that they were like, yeah, there's a lot of wasteful spending in the government? Or do you think they actually were saying the exact same thing that Trump is saying right now, but because they're liberals, you just have this assumption that no, they are actually doing this for the greater good? It's the same exact shit. It's just a different party. Same suit, different tie, but you automatically assume, oh, this might be actually for good purpose. It's not. It's just the same shit. Unless you legitimately think that because Trump became president, that all of a sudden planes started falling out of the sky. Unless you legitimately think that, which I don't. I know I joke around about this a lot, but these are issues born out of austerity and born out of layoffs and born out of corner cutting, cost cutting measures that were set in motion many decades ago. This kind of stuff doesn't happen overnight.
Would do a better job here in Washington in rooting out wasteful spending.
And in that process, now you understand how the Republicans get to move even further right on this issue. Why do the Republicans get to move further right on this issue? Because the Democrats move right on this issue. This video, this collection of videos is a perfect example of this problem that liberals have. Okay? This is it. This is the ratchet effect in action right in front of your eyes. This is why I am so angry all the time at the things that the Democrats do, because that's supposed to be the party that you can kind of change. That's supposed to be the party that's supposed to exist as a counterweight to Republican initiatives.
Ah, amazing. They sound like Donald Trump, except they never got the job done. How times have changed. Now, tonight there are
They did get the job done, by the way. Sean Hannity is wrong.
Reports of a collective panic in the Washington swamp, a flood of new real estate listings as Trump dismantles the Washington bureaucracy at a rapid pace, which brings us to our Hannity Washington brief with Caroline Webb.
Yes, Mind Drive, which is one of the biggest liberals in this chat, is 100% correct. See, in 2 decades, Republicans will use footage of Dems supporting the immigration bill and saying, see, it won't take 2 decades. It'll happen now. If the Democrats actually were to actively start talking about these mass deportations as a negative, which they haven't, by the way, suspiciously, have you noticed that they haven't done that? They would do that.
And joining us with more, White House Press Secretary, the one and only Caroline Leavitt. I got these clips today, and I looked at them, and I said, oh, wow, they wanted to be Donald Trump, but they weren't able to pull it off. What's your reaction?
That's exactly right, Sean. If you just watched that video, but shut your eyes and listened to the words from those Democrat politicians, you would think you are listening to President Trump, Elon Musk, and our entire administration, who are saying the exact same things that Democrat politicians promised the American people they would do for decades. President Trump is just the first president in our lifetimes to actually do it. And now you see the Democrat Party and the mainstream media spiraling out of control about a very simple promise: rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse from our federal bureaucracy. This is a promise President Trump campaigned on. He is now delivering on it. And I've been fighting fake news reporters all day long here in the Washington, D.C. swamp, who are trying to fearmonger the American people into believing that this administration is going after their hard-earned tax dollars and their hard-earned Social Security checks. So I want to set the record straight on your show tonight, Sean, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do so. President Trump.
No. We're not coming after your hard-earned Social Security dollars. I promise. We're just looking for waste, fraud, and abuse. She has to say that because everyone that watches Fox News is 800 years old.
Trump has directed Elon Musk and the Doge team to identify fraud at the Social Security Administration. They haven't dug into the books yet, but they suspect that there are tens of millions of deceased people who are receiving fraudulent Social Security payments. And so their goal in going into the Social Security Administration is to identify 3 things. Number 1, to identify duplicate payments and to end them. Number 2, to identify payments that are going to deceased
deceased people who are no longer living and should no longer be receiving that money. And number three, to protect the integrity of this system for hardworking Americans who have been paying into it their entire lives. So rest assured to all of the people watching your show tonight, if you paid into the system, honestly, you will continue to receive your Social Security checks. Do not buy into the lies from the legacy fake news media who are trying to fear you and scare you into believing otherwise. This is what we've seen them do about President Trump for years with every promise that he has made. And he's going in there to protect your hard-earned money. That is the ultimate goal.
Okay, now they have apparently found 8.7 million Americans who are listed. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't know if they're being paid, but they're listed and they're on the Social Security roll. Their names are there that are over 130 years old. 8.7 million Americans listed. And as Elon said, far more eligible Social Security numbers than there are actual citizens in the U.S. But we don't know.
Yeah. I wonder what this inconsistency represents. Does this mean that we are interpreting the data falsely, interpreting the data that we're looking at incorrectly, because we're a bunch of incompetent morons with no actual experience in this field? Or maybe it's actually that there is mass waste, fraud, and abuse occurring. Now, let me explain something to you. And this is something that will most likely happen. There will be real instances of waste, fraud, and abuse. Okay? Just like there's instances of waste in USAID or whatever the fuck, right? Obviously, of course there is. Just so you understand. It's just not what they're talking about, and that's not what they're going after. But they will use real examples to package up this broader narrative that there is, 150 million Americans that are over the age of 200 or whatever. Okay?
Yet, if checks are being sent to either individuals that are dead or maybe family members that are receiving them, we just know their names are still on the list, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. There are a lot of unanswered questions, but that's exactly why these Social Security employees, I may add, are digging into the books and going line by line because past administrations have refused to do this very time-consuming but necessary work. And I want to emphasize that these are Social Security political appointees. With every change of a new administration, you have new political appointees, just like me and my colleagues at the White House, who onboard to serve the elected president. That's called a democracy. And for far too long, we've had a bureaucracy that has been running these agencies. And look at what has resulted in. Tens of billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse every single year that we know of. And so these DOJ employees, these Social Security employees are onboarding as Social Security Administration employees, political appointees, and they have every right to administer President Trump's agenda. And that's their main focus with this effort. Not just at Social Security, but of course at every agency, as you know.
I don't want to give away the interview tomorrow with President Trump and Elon, but I can give a few headlines. There's no conflict between them. There's no power struggle. There's no ambiguity as to who the president is. And what I observe both in front of the camera and behind the camera are people that had a great relationship. I don't want to give too much away. People will decide for themselves. You were there for a lot of it. You agree?
I definitely agree. And I witnessed this relationship firsthand every single day in the Oval Office and at the White House. And President Trump has tasked Elon Musk with administering his America First agenda.
Oh, my God. This is going to be a spectacular failure. Oh, Sean Hannity is basically Sean Hannity having to say this ahead of time. Oh, my Lord. Yeah, why is this something that you feel the need to address, I wonder? The very fact that you feel the need to address this speculation means that there is probably either on the Trump side or someone else saw all of this narrative, all of this rhetoric, and got upset enough to want to address it.
And just like the rest of us who serve at the pleasure of the president, but most importantly serve the American people. More than 77 million Americans re-elected President Trump to promote monumental, fundamental change, to shake up the Washington swamp. And there's nobody better than Elon Musk to do that. He is a once-in-a-generation business leader. He sent rocket ships to space. He's far smarter than many of the people who are grunting and moaning on Capitol Hill about these efforts are. And he's the perfect person to help President Trump with this effort. The mainstream media wants to drive a wedge between their relationship, but they are failing. And our entire team is unified behind President Trump to deliver on the promises he made to the American people on the campaign trail.
All right, that is this week's Hannity White House briefing with White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Caroline, great to have you as always. Thank you. You're both aware, you have to be keenly aware, that the media and the punditry class, not that, I think you've proven they have no power anymore because they threw everything they had at you and they didn't win. And that was, the New York Times, Washington Post, 3 networks, every late night comedy show, 2 cable channels. They just...
Is it loud?
They threw everything, lawfare, weaponization. Sure. And now I see... They want you two to start, they want a divorce. They want you two to start hating each other. And they try, President Elon Musk, for example. You do know that they're doing that to you.
Oh, I see it all the time. They tried it, then they stopped. That wasn't, they have many different things of hatred. Actually, Elon called me. He said, they're trying to drive us apart. I said, absolutely. They said, we have breaking news. Donald Trump has ceded control of the presidency to Elon Musk. President Musk will be attending a cabinet meeting tonight at 8 o'clock.
Oh, he hates it. Oh, he hates it. Oh, my God. Oh, hell yes. He hates it, and Musk loves it.
And I say, it's just so obvious. They're so bad at it. I used to think they were good at it. They're actually bad at it, because if they were good at it, I'd never be president. Because I think nobody in history has ever gotten more bad publicity than me. I could do the greatest things. I get 98% bad publicity. I could do, outside of you and a few of your very good friends, it's like the craziest thing. But you know what I have learned, Elon? The people are smart. They get it.
Wait, you think so? Are you sure? Are you coping? No, I think so. The very fact that they're addressing this implies that the narrative is obviously being discussed behind closed doors. Donald Trump is Mr. Marketing. He's also a very narcissistic and oftentimes very emotional man, okay? He's super thin-skinned. So when people attribute like all of his agency's accomplishments, all of his government's accomplishments to Elon Musk, he will inevitably get mad. This is the one area where we need liberals. Liberals are so good at this stuff. They will constantly talk about how, they're doing gay stuff. They're having gay sex in the White House. Like, that's like, I get that. I guess I just see more internal stability than his first go around when people were getting fired daily. You see more internal stability. Oh, yes, Donald Trump, outside of Elon Musk, has strengthened his ranks with loyalists. Like, that's number one. That's what they care about more than anything else. Loyal to Trump, loyal to the MAGA agenda, whatever that might be. That obviously means whatever Trump wants. That much is true. Having said that, it's only been a month, chatter. Give it some breathing room. They already had a Trump-appointed Federalist Society prosecutor drop out because of the Eric Adams case. That was a Trump appointee.
Get it.
Yeah, they do, actually.
They get it. They really see what's happening.
Yes.
You're going to rescue astronauts. And now, again, you do all of this. I would think liberals would love the fact that you have the biggest electric vehicle company in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be adored by the left, you know.
Yeah, not anymore.
Less so these days.
He killed that, huh?
I mean, less so.
I really didn't.
Well, I mean, this whole sort of like, you know, they call it like Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah. And I don't, you don't realize how real this is until like you can't reason with people.
You don't realize how real this is? Dog, you literally thought President DeSantis. You were in the tank for Ronald McDonald DeSantis. Did we just collectively experience amnesia? He kept shitting on Trump. saying he was old as dirt, saying he was incompetent, and that Ron DeSantis will lead the new charge. Did everybody forget about this? I feel like you guys also forgot about this. It wasn't that long ago, man. Look at Trump's face.
So, like, I was at a friend's birthday party in LA, just a birthday dinner, and it was like a nice, quiet dinner, and everyone was behaving normally. And then I happened to mention, this is before the election, like a month or two before, I happened to mention the president's name. And it was like they got shot with a dart in the jugular that contained like methamphetamine and rabies. Okay, and I'm like, what is wrong, guys? Like,
oh, he hates when he does the autistic dinosaur move, dude. Look. Look at Trump's face.
I mean, and rabies. Okay, and like, what is?
Look at Trump's face. Okay, here's another lock. I think Trump is gonna start saying the R word behind closed doors to talk about Elon and then accidentally let it slip in public. No, he's not going to call Elon the R word in public, but I think Donald Trump is going to publicly say the R word because he's been using it more frequently, because he's constantly talking about Elon with that word. Trump hates nerds. He's old school. He still sees nerds as evil guys. Like in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, Donald Trump hated, much like me, the Big Bang Theory. Yeah, that's my goat right there. That's my catty bitch.
Bro, guys, like, you can't have like a normal conversation. Yeah. And it's like it's like they become completely irrational.
No, Trump is like FDR. He is. He's just reverse FDR. He's reverse FDR in the sense that everybody gets polio. He's reverse FDR in the sense that he's going to undermine all of the initiatives taken under the leadership of FDR. He's also very similar to FDR in the sense that, like, he is basically operating like he's doing a lot. Okay, that's it. It's motion. He's got a lot of motion. Are you going to react to the A$AP Rocky verdict? Trump will free him. Trump freed him once. He'll free him again.
The story will continue in a moment.
People are really scared. I think that, 12 days ago, people knew where their next paycheck was coming from. They knew how they were going to pay for their kids' daycare, their medical.
Gone overnight for Christina Dry and Adam Dubard.
You reacting to this or what? No, Jay Mershon. I am not going to be reacting to the Jube. Okay? I don't care that other people are going crazy over it. I don't care to hear from Michael Knowles. Nor do I care to watch as that other chatter called the Jube. That was funny. Hey, Hasanabi, are you going to react to the Jube today? The Jube. That seems inefficient. Fire them all. Accountants and lawyers, 40% of the staff, fire them. You wouldn't need them if you were not doing woke nonsense. Just don't say his last. Just refer to him by his first name. It's hard. It's hard for me to pay attention when you keep calling him by his last name, which sounds like what I would call Axios. Like that's a nickname I would give to Axios. Like, oh, look at Nazios doing the thing they're right. Why do people think Axios is a left-wing publication? They never have been a left-wing publication. They are a center-right publication. What the hell is going on? It's not the first time I heard this too. Axios is a right-wing publication that is a center-right publication. Is it because of that COVID interview with Donald Trump? Is that why? Where are these people coming from that think Axios is a left-wing or like a left publication? A guy on YouTube called Asmongold center-left today. If Asmongold is center-left, then I make Stalin look like an anarchist. Like, what are we talking about? Like, I'm so hyper-left that I'm operating on a different plane of existence, I guess. Are these people out of touch, or is the window shifting? Leftistly cozying up to the State Department establishment? Who's doing that? If Asmongold is center-left, who's right-wing? Like, what is right-wing then? Asmongold is center-left. His favorite politician, Donald Trump, also center-left. Adolf Hitler, center. Adolf Hitler was a centrist because, you know, he was a vegetarian. He told his in charge chat yesterday he would have voted for Bernie and would do it again if he ran. He told him he is for UBI, and they turned on him so fast, Lamau. Yeah, I don't even. I'm not even going to go ahead and say that like I disbelieve him when he says that, but it doesn't matter when you're doing, 6 hours of pro-Trump glazing talking about how he's making America great. It doesn't fucking matter if you say you'd vote for Bernie Sanders. Why is it bad to have had the take that the U.S. tells everyone what to do? They do whatever we say, like you said. That is how you felt, but didn't say much. Why do you have to hide that take? Just wondering. I felt the same. What? Dude, I'm so confused. When have I don't think I've ever hidden that thing that I say all the time that you're admitting that I say all the time. Why does he completely hate your takes if you actually had Bernie Sanders on the stream and we're agreeing with each other practically the whole time?
Department of Defense, the Social Security Administration. Why?
Yeah, this was another oopsie. USDA says it accidentally fired officials working on the bird flu and is trying to rehire them. In a statement, the Agricultural Department spokesperson told NBC News that officials are working to swiftly rectify the situation. Oops. Theo Vaughn told Bernie to his face that he would want him to run alongside Trump. It's a normal position. Yes, Asmongold is smarter than Theo Vaughn. I 100% will stand on this. You guys forget, Asmongold worked at the fucking IRS, dude. What are you talking about? I'm not sure about that. Yes, Asmongold worked at the IRS. Elon Musk works at SpaceX and Tesla. Is he smart because of that also? Or are you only smart if you work at the IRS? Okay. Let me ask you a question. What do you think Elon Musk does at SpaceX and at Tesla? A better comparison would be if you said your friend with a master's in like aerospace and mechanical engineering works at SpaceX as an engineer working on, their latest rocket technology. Would you say that he's smart just because he worked at SpaceX? I would say yes, he is probably smart. Elon Musk doesn't need to have those qualifications or be smart. Elon Musk has money. Do you think the IRS hires random people with no information whatsoever and no competency whatsoever? Like, no. I think it is indicative, and that's why it's shocking for many people when they find this out, because it is very different than the way Asmongold presents himself now. There's a reason why that fact is so shocking that some of you are having a hard time coping with that reality. Anyway, yeah, he looked a lot more normal. Also, I like that I simply said that Asmongold, I think, is probably smarter than Theo Vaughn, which is like an insanely low bar to clear. The reason why they're doing it through Doge, by the way, chatters. Because I know that a lot of chatters are like, why doesn't he do this through Congress? Because no congressperson would ever let this happen. And yes, that includes Republicans as well. Okay. And number two, it is a part of their agenda. Okay. It is a part of their agenda to not ask for permission. They are doing this deliberately. They are trying to, and successfully, making the power of the executive office far grander than it ever was before. And as is the case, this is not a new concept. Trump is not an aberration. He is a logical conclusion. That is precisely the reason why the unitary executive theory was set in motion and even applied and greatly expanded on. Another thing that they're going to do is another thing that they're going to have to tackle eventually, and they're kind of doing this with USAID, is undermine congressionally approved spending in all areas, not just like areas that pertain to foreign policy or immigration or whatever, but like actively intercept and refuse when there is pre-existing government legislation that dictates that money be spent a certain way. That is what's up next. Let the 400 plus agencies do what they want. Yeah, no, literally, that exactly. What? Yeah, that's how it's supposed to work. Yeah. The fuck? Yeah, there is a division of labor and a division of responsibility in the regulatory bodies. And that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And that's why they hire scientists. What? Yeah, this chatter brings up a good point. Look up the word agency. Like the definition. Also, I don't know if you know this, but like, while the agency appointments to a certain degree are dictated by the government, dictated by the executive, after an election, you win and you change the structure a little bit. The agencies didn't materialize out of nowhere. They were created by Congress. Like, that is the legislative body that created the agencies and tasked them to take on certain roles. And the reason for why, as I was saying earlier, educate yourself, don't always ask Hassan. Yeah. The congressional veto override is absolute constitutional proof that the president does not have the power to pick and choose what congressional spending he will allow. Yeah, I don't think they care about that. They're trying to, I forget what they're trying to use, but Republicans are very good at finding like some random 19th century provision to be like, see, this law actually allows us to veto expenditures. What did they call it? I forget what it's called. Impoundment. Is that what it is? Yeah. Now, obviously, the overarching goal is the same, right? The goal there is obviously to override congressional authority in terms of how much power it has how much power it has over the purse, which is like the one thing that Congress has power over. Okay? But they are claiming, just like Nixon did in the past, to use presidential impoundment. Okay? Most Americans have never heard the term impoundment, a process through which the president withholds federal money that Congress has already appropriated for a specific purpose. It is entirely unconstitutional, for the record. Not that that word even means anything. Okay? I hope you understand. This word, unconstitutional, is meaningless. Okay? But for anyone following the events out of Washington recently, the term has been in news frequently. In fact, the issue is potentially one that might produce a major constitutional crisis in the coming months. Will it? I don't know. President Donald Trump has been hell-bent on using the executive authority to cut as much of the federal agency spending as possible. He's already gone after a number of targets ranging from the U.S. Agency for International Aid Development on the National Institute to the National Institutes of Health. He asserted the president's long recognized impoundment power and vowed to use it to squeeze the blood of federal bureaucracy for massive savings. Yeah. I just wish that the Democrats operated like this as well, by the way, because I am not I will use, as long as institutions exist, as long as legal hurdles exist, when the Republicans are in charge and they want to do something awful, I will always demand that the Democratic Party use them. But if there was ever a real Labor Party, if there was ever a real left party, I would tell you, I don't give a shit about any of these institutions. I don't give a shit about any of these fucking norms, okay? I'm just letting you know. That's why I always say I wish the Democrats truly cared about working class Americans and actually operated, at least in terms of politics, like the way that the Republicans do. Find some random, ridiculous rule in the book from, 1812 to be like, hey, sorry, America, we have to, we have to have permanent full employment. Sorry, and the government has to create these jobs. They just don't do that. West Wing fantasy works better. No, I'm just saying, they could technically try and do this. They just don't have any motivation to do this because they get paid by the same corporate benefactors. Okay? Midas Touch just dethroned Joe Rogan as the #1 podcast. What? Oh my God. My libs. My big, beautiful libs. Can you give an example of one of those laws from 1812, or are you just making it up? Yes, no, I'm making it up. I don't know if there's any laws specifically that means you have to have full employment in 1812, okay? Dude, my point is, it doesn't even fucking matter. You think impoundment is legitimate? No, it's clearly unconstitutional. They are inappropriately trying to slot it in to basically undermine the power of the purse that Congress has. Democrats have nerds too. You think Democrats don't fucking have... You think Democrats don't have nerds? Like constitutional law scholars and shit? They do. I'm saying there is something in the rule books that you can absolutely task your nerds to go and find to suit your agenda, okay? But the problem is their agenda is not all that different than the Republicans. You know who does this really well? David Dayen does this shit really well. He is my #1 nerd at the American Prospect. I rely greatly on David Dayen's work, and I love the American Prospect for this particular reason, among many others. But this is a huge part of it, right? He constantly is pouring over old precedent, legal precedent, agency powers, things that the American government has done in the past to basically say, like, this is what the Democrats could be doing. They don't do any of it, though. And he does this shit for free, basically. He does it for his own readers. What is this? Why are you people defending them? You see Asmongold's shock reaction at Trump lying about Zelensky's 4% approval rating. I think the most shocking part about this is that the only thing that Asmongold seemingly is very liberal on, or very like Democratic Party adjacent on, is the Ukraine stuff. Why is that the one thing that he's like, why is it the one thing that he is like super libbed up on? Stop giving us Asmon updates for fuck's sake. I mean, I agree, but I do think it's funny. What is it? Oh my God, is it because of Reddit? He gets all of his points from Reddit. So maybe because Reddit is pro-Ukraine, is that what it is? It reminds him of Star Wars. Okay, shut up. That's literally not. Then he would be pro-Hamas. Like, what do you mean? It reminds him of Star Wars. Is not. Who was the writer you just mentioned? His name is David Dayen, and the publication is The American Prospect. Asmon has twice the large an audience, so someone should pay attention to what he's saying, unfortunately. Well, I don't need to necessarily pay attention to exactly what Asmongold is saying, because we are watching the same shit. And he is predictably on the opposing side of most of these issues. So when I react to any random Republican commentator, I'm reacting to the more fully fleshed out take that Asmongold is regurgitating that he gets from his chat that he spits back out at them. So it doesn't really, more viewers equals correct. No, that's not the point that chatter was making. The point that chatter was making is that Asmongold is obviously impactful in the space of political commentary now, whether you agree to it or not. You both agreed on Germany, at least? I don't think so. But if the Republicans don't have the power to push this agenda in Congress, why isn't there enough momentum in the other direction to impeach Trump and make him accountable to the law? The reason why I said the Republicans don't have the power to push this in Congress is because there aren't enough Republicans that would be on board. I didn't say that the overwhelming majority care about it all that much. It actually gives them plausible deniability when Trump is doing this through the power of the executive. Therefore, they don't have to associate their name with like significant layoffs. Do you understand? So it's actually beneficial for the Republicans. They don't give a shit one way or another. They're actually, terrified of Trump and the constituency. So they're playing cover for him. Yes. Of course, the Republican Party is playing cover for Donald Trump. They're not even playing cover. They're just in agreement. They just don't give a shit for the most part. Does this eventually make the GOP so toxic with the general electorate that they start to push back on Trump? In normal times, I'd say yes, but yeah, I don't think so. At least not yet. What is this? Trump's team allegedly offered Putin 1, Ukrainian territory; 2, no NATO membership for Ukraine; 3, no U.S. soldiers in Ukraine; 4, the withdrawal. Okay, 2 and 3 are not like crazy things that he gave Vladimir Putin, by the way. Who the fuck thought that there was 2 and 3 was ever happening? The withdrawal of U.S. soldiers from Europe? Okay, that's insane. And I don't think that that's going to happen. Including from front lines? Yeah, this guy's out of his mind, dude. What? Professor of political science, U.S. ambassador to Russia 2012 to 2014. Is this guy there? Bro, there ain't no way. This guy's literally posting. Meredith, or this lady, sorry, is posting the Twitter post that I am currently reading. Look on the screen, Meredith. We are reading the tweet that you posted in the chat. Yeah, I don't think that number 4 is happening. That seems genuinely insane. Okay. I don't think that, but like, yeah, number 2 and number 3 were already always happening and would always happen. And number 5 is definitely going to happen. And number 1 is most likely going to happen as well. So he just said he wouldn't do that. I heard he offered Russia the entirety of California too. Return for 1 ruble. Yeah. Let's get into the no NATO thing. Is like every other policy with the carrot of Schrodinger's membership is no longer there and replaced with just the stick of deal with it and we will make you a colony now. Yes. Careful with predicting irrational actors. True. There's no longer one irrational actor that I'm supposed to be predicting on now. There's 2 of them. So I don't know. No predictions. You know what? I've learned my goddamn lesson, okay? I've learned my goddamn lesson making predictions on what irrational state leaders choose to do and choose not to do, regardless of the repercussions. Okay?
Damn, this guy's good.